start the
Okay,
recording.
cool.
And I have nowhere to start necessarily, but I'll give you a rundown at least of what I have pulled up here, which is these three PowerPoints. They
Wow,
aren't
that's a
labeled
lot.
anything, like I just, it started off as something and grew into much more. I mean, other than this body one, kind of is all
Oops.
just different parts of the body here. But these other two are like I was looking into physics stuff, called it particle physics, and then it just kind of turned into a whole bunch of different things, avenues, tangents, things we were talking about, starting on different projects, and combining all these different things together. Like your stuff with the world and East India Trading Company versus our 20 modern companies, big tech, some other crazy things. Oh, this is when I read the Greenland theory, and this is kind of how he breaks things down in the whole book as far as how the language is all contorted and manipulated in different ways. We talk about that with spell magic, word magic, broadcasting, newscasting, right? All of these words are even they're well known witch words. They're well known like in witchcraft, wizardry, all your stories of Dracula and werewolves, right?
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm reading the screen here. So Clark Kent, the word central control, right,
Hmm.
is the economical equivalent of the word control for CIA. It's in the. I told you I'm like slower, so I'm like
Yeah, that's fine,
just trying
Salty.
to get all the information. Um.
And that we'll delve into this stuff more. I'm just trying to go through
Oh,
what
you're
I've
giving
got
an
here.
overview. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so these go on and on. Look, it goes into like here's stuff for the Bible and the Seder Repro Square and the one and the zero. So like that's what I'm trying to say is like these PowerPoints aren't put in any particular order. There's no like these have been over the years. Some slides were created together, some were created years later, years before. It depended like what we were
Oh,
talking about.
okay.
Some of them are from discussions that me and Silas had years ago. There's a video that would technically go with a few of these slides. Like here, this is talking about the ogdoad um, and the monad structure, and when we were looking into gematria and all the numbers and different things that pop up. And it's like today I really
Mm.
wouldn't talk about a lot of this stuff anymore than just like yeah, we kind of went down this road and looked into these things, and there's a lot of connections that can be made, and there's a lot of fallacy out there too of other people who show you this stuff. And that's where, you can kind of look at it as like, well, anyone can use this information for anything. So when someone's claiming to be a decoder, what are they really decoding for you? If they're not teaching you the key to the process, then they're becoming that authoritative figure that they're speaking against. You see how that's kind of ironic?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and then I got this one is probably more of it's very symbolic, filled with symbols. I know Mehdi and Silas said something about the sun. So if anything, I would start with something like this, I guess. Where you got
Okay.
the sun, kind of put some Star Wars stuff in there, just because that's what they give you in modern media, right? They talk about Death Stars and projections and all of the ideas and everything that floats out there on a mass scale is done through major media. And major motion pictures are going to be, they have the most funds, they have the biggest organizations behind them, they're seen by the most people, at any given time. So, if anything, most of your codes and symbolism and everything that's expressed on the grand scale of everything is going to come through like your major politicians and speeches and stuff, and then major motion films or TV series or anything that's coming out of your TV, right? That's the
Mm.
projector that you're looking at. So in like this particular slide, the reason I put all this stuff up there is because your eyeball works that same way, right? Cameras and
Yeah.
TV and everything was developed based off of how your eyeball works. And so these
Great.
symbols, these focal points you see and all these cross sections here, right, in this
Is there a way to
picture.
make it bigger? I'm sorry. Is
Yeah.
there a way to make it this put it on the screen? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm, went to the next one. Like I have these images blown up too. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, you see these crossings and stuff I'm talking about. There's all these diamonds and
Yes.
pyramids and different things that are being made. Well, that's
Right.
going to be the same as this symbol right here, which is the sigil of Lucifer put over a cross section of the brain from the top side.
Wow.
So you see how those pyramids and diamonds and all these different focal points all line up the same?
Wow, that's something.
Right. So that's why I look at this image here with these, how the optics of the eye work. That's where the sigil probably developed from. It was from the study of the human eye, right? Or it could have been vice versa. I don't know. I don't actually know. I'm just suggesting that it's like you're told one way. We're told one way in school that this is how it is. This is step one, this is step two. It's like that's not necessarily true, right?
Right.
All of these things could have been determined by what would be considered today as like mathematical geniuses who also studied biology and a bunch of other things. And they probably had to like either kill people or study animals and dissect them and actually break these things apart, right? And
Yeah.
actually get how all this stuff functions. And I mean, if you take
Yeah.
the modern day person who's never killed their own meal or had to hunt for their own food and stuff, they're going to look at some archaic scientist 1,000 years ago and think he's like a Neanderthal pagan devil worshiping something. And in reality, he could have just been some scientist in the woods kind of guy who was just curious about the nature of his reality and he was seeking it out. And he was drawing
Good
all these
point.
crazy symbols like this. And people are like, oh my God, it's the sign of Satan. You know, it's the sigil of Lucifer. It's blah, blah, blah. This crazy dude in the woods who's chopping up animals and bodies and trying to explain to people how their eyeballs in their head actually work, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. But beyond these PowerPoints, the only other thing I have, well, it's not just one thing, handful of movie clips here, but this folder has all these images.
Wow.
Big folder.
Yeah, it's thousands and
Great.
thousands.
So these presentations are gonna go for years.
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
could
You're,
excited.
literally,
you're listening to episode one of probably 2 or 3 thousand.
yeah.
Exactly.
But then it's like to break all this down. So, like, when we're having discussions and I'm actively posting these symbols very fast while people are talking, it's all I
Yes.
need is a keyword, right? So, like, you're talking about DNA and all that kind of stuff. Well, DNA, here's all your symbols with DNA or some sort of connection or something else going on, right?
Mm.
So then it's like I can take these thousands of images. Obviously, with the advent of keyword search, you can find anything in a heartbeat, you know. And there's stuff I
How
forget
about
about that people like remind me of, and then I'll search for it within my folder, and a whole bunch of things pop up. You know what I mean?
so? What do you
Wow.
have on the sun?
Let's see.
Since it's a Sunday today.
Sun and
Boom.
moon. Yeah, so like the black hole sun. I think this is your typical Masonic drawing. A little more elaborate though. So here's your Saturn black hole sun at the base, and then it
Mm.
has technically the other two would be swirling up here. So I don't really
It's
know
the
what to
same
make of
idea as
these.
the.
Oh,
It's the
go ahead.
same idea as the abyss, isn't it?
Hmm.
But the Saturn would be the root of the world, and that which is above is the source. It's the sort of rays of light, the thing that's imperceptible, but we all sort of try and gravitate and cleave to. Um, but Saturn anchors us to the world.
Mm.
And that's just one
And,
perception, right? The others are the
mm,
abyss, right? They consider it the abyss. There's others who consider it a black hole, like an actual black hole, uh, depending on which religion or time period you're talking about, right?
Yeah, I
yeah,
see the yin and the yang in there, and then the male and the female. Like so the poles, I guess. Does that represent the poles, the opposites?
Or the sun and
Yeah.
the moon. So the
yeah.
sun's
So
Okay.
male and the moon's female. Because they're inside of this dome here, right? This is like the moon right
Yeah.
here, and the sun's underneath the plus sign.
And
So
what's the spiral about? What's
this,
yeah.
that's the tree of life. That's electromagnetic energy that binds everything together
Hmm.
in like the material plane, which is it's a convoluted statement. So even what I told you, it's like I don't believe that full-heartedly. It's just that that's the only way I know how to express it. But that's how I see it as like plasmatic waters and power supply. That's your magnetism. This is electricity. You can't
Hmm.
have one without the other. And you see it a lot, right? You see it in like any time travel movie, right? They show you that tunnel.
Yeah.
That's what that is right here. This is what they're talking about blowing up every time.
Hmm.
So they're saying it's like a wormhole to another dimension and we need to get rid of it, right? Well, it is technically a wormhole to the astral dimension or whatever other phase outside of the harmonic in which we exist. So they reinvent it in like something like Pacific Rim and they put it underneath the water and say it's down here. And then they say we need to drop a nuke in it and blow it up before all these monsters come up and take over the world, right?
And and when you say they, are you talking about like the Masonic orders and whatever?
TPD, TB.
Yeah, those ones, the powers that be or the powers that shouldn't be or whatever you want to consider,
Okay.
the
Okay.
cabal, the theys, the thems. Um, because I personally, I just say they and them. That's how we understand it and how we communicate the
Yeah.
information. What you
Mm-hmm.
actually think about it or what I actually think about it is something entirely different. I'm sure
Right.
there's multiple groups, there's many different things going on. There's probably some sort of collaboration of a singular cabal of sorts, but it's like a den of thieves. Like you're talking about the most thieving, conniving, snake-like human beings ever who have superseded their society to the very top of the structure. The
Mm.
way that they got there was a very, what's perceived by the average person as like a very maniacal, conniving, destructive path. So it's like
Mm.
those people now are all in the same little club together. Well, they've all stepped on thousands of other souls to get to where they are. Why wouldn't they step on the next guy again to move up again? You know what I mean? So you're
Yeah.
gonna you're gonna have a big hosh-posh of all sorts of people who believe they're the king of the hill trying to get to the next bigger hill. Dog eat dog
Hmm.
world, expressions like that kind of come from that sort of thinking, you know.
Mm.
Right. And then I like to justify saying they as far as we don't know who they ever specifically are. There is a group of they that are up to these things.
Yeah, yeah, there's
So, like you said, regardless of how connected they are, what's specific beyond that, who knows? Who cares?
so here this other image kind of shows this positive, negative, sun, moon, holographic projection, all the different dimensions, supposedly. So, and I don't think this is
See, that's interesting.
absolutely wrong. It's just in the New Age movement with certain groups and people and different cult leaders and whatever you want to call them, they've taken this and going, yeah, we need to get to this 5D reality. We're going to project. It's just like a new form of the rapture,
Mm.
is all that is. Like it's a repackaged and resold rapture for like the modern day Catholic Christian and whichever other groups kind of believe in that, right? So, like, but they just took something that's absolutely correct in the correct perception and they manipulated it and changed it into this, like, oh, we're living in this three-dimensional body and we're gonna evolve and skip 4D and go right to the 5D conscious. It's like, well, that's just saying you're gonna live and then die. That's the same thing. Because once you pass on and shed your 3D body, you're going to skip 4D and you're going to go back to the source from which you came, which is 5D conscious.
Mm.
You see what I mean? Like, it's very easy to
Absolutely.
manipulate these things and just say it's this way or that way.
Yeah.
I was also going to just mention on that as well with the heart. In Latin, it's the word is chord for heart. So you have, of course, you have chords in music, but you also have the chord and the mooring rope and that symbolism. But another thing, see with the toroid and the branch of, I guess, the electromagnetic tree on the black hole sun infographic, you have the anode and cathode, but then you have, of course, the EU Parliament in Strasbourg, which is built around Bruegel's understanding of the Tower of Babel. He viewed it like that sort of toroid shape. And of course, their anthem is the Ode to Joy. So you have the anode and the cathode, and they have the Ode to Joy. I mean, I don't know if there's anything to that, but it's always it's quite interesting. Uh, you know,
Let's see, chord. That was what you said that sprung at first. Here it is.
Spinal cord. That's funny.
Yep, the spinal cord. And it's
Well,
got
they
a
also
couple of
talk
the other.
about the cord that ties you to your astral body, right?
mm-hmm, yeah,
Well, in the physical, that would probably be the spinal cord, right?
yeah.
Mm.
That,
Yeah.
what was that? The apex something
Yeah.
at the top of your spine that has the incorrect
Top of your spine's the
alignment.
atlas. The
Atlas.
atlas and then the axis is
Oh,
below it.
Atlas, is that what you said?
Yep,
Yes,
the atlas. It's your
Atlas.
C1 vertebrae.
So it's like that Atlas bone that would be your connection of your spinal cord to your higher spiritual essence. That cord. Do you see what I mean? How I
Mm-hmm.
like,
And in,
let's see here, I'll pull up two of these.
and of course Atlas as well holds the world on his shoulders. But there's also, if you look at some of the sort of later Roman statues from the 2nd century, he actually is holding the stars like a zodiacal belt, but in a globular form, a sphere on his shoulders. So obviously the
Oh,
idea
yes.
is that our mind is the star. It's the heavens, if you will. It's the upper chamber, the heavens. It's the gateway to heaven.
This right here, this portion
Gotcha.
is the gateway to heaven. This is where we exist. And this is the root of all creation from the primordial waters or abyss or whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
So with your spinal cord, it's like that's the physical cord that sits, at your back. That would be like this cord right here. So your feet and your legs are rooted in the abyss, and then your head would be equivalent to up here. And so
And
that's
this reminds me of the YHWH symbolism for man. It just reminds me of that because the way you're speaking, that how it represents each part of the body, the head, and then the legs,
Where
and
is that? This one?
yeah, the tetragrammaton. Yeah.
Right. And that's here's like the firmament, and here's Earth. Here's the surface of Earth. This would be your connections to the abyss. This is the upper, your head, astral plane, space. All right, that's like small.
There
I
you
know,
go.
I know I have better ones of these though. I just don't know what they're labeled as. Probably man or something. Hmm, I don't know. That's why I like how other stuff pops up. Here's like each body that's layered just on top of you.
Oh wow.
So you have your physical, your energetic, the mental, intellectual bliss, personal being. 5
I've
bodies,
never,
duality being, and this would be your
never seen
spark.
these before.
Hmm. Well, like I always express that I'm always speaking in symbols. A lot of the times it goes to the numbers because the numbers are the most basic. And one thing I found is like it, 7 is the critical one, right? 7 days of creation, 7 days of this, 777. It's the scythe, it's the scepter, it's the cutter, it's all these different things.
The
So
chakra, right?
the
7 chakras.
chakras, yep, 7 days of the week. So septenary, yeah, there it is. So see, there's all these things with sevens, 7 pointed stars. Now, obviously,
Mm.
there's the five
Yeah.
pointed, the 6 pointed, the 10. There's all the different things, but our creation and the way that we have everything broken up really relies on 7. So not only is there 7 days of the week, there's a 52-week calendar. 5 plus 2 is 7.
Mm.
It's always coming back to that 7. Our alphabet, the 26 letters, it can be broken down equally into septenary, which is the 7 cut. So, and this is like, when you're doing gematria and you count the whole letter system 1 through 26, well, this just counts up to 7, back down to 1, and then
Yeah.
starts back at 1 up to 7, and then back down to 1.
What is can I stop you for a second? What is
Yep,
that T in the triangle up above there? Because I know that's the uh Mason symbol on the other side, but on the right side, the triangle on the top
yep,
with
this
the
right here.
T in it. What is that? Yeah, what is that?
This is the tetragrammaton,
Oh.
the T, which is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. That's why it's so significant. This adds up to 22 because the Hebrew alphabet is 22 letters. And
Mm.
22 divided by 7 is equivalent to pi, right?
Mm.
3.1415,
Yeah,
etc.,
yeah, yeah.
which is how you measure circles. This is all about circles. It's all about motion. And that's what, even how this breaks down, these are all half circles, right? You put the G and the T
Mm-hmm.
together, you get a full circle. So this is like the same thing when we're talking about the sun and the moon being positive and negative, female and male. They're both halves to a whole circle, right? They
Yeah.
make completion. So, and I always thought this was significant because the first time when I ever saw this, I mean, of course, like the pi and the circles and all that's very interesting, but first thing I thought of was the GT 500, which is like one of Ford's most notable Mustangs, right? And Ford
But tell us
itself.
why.
Well, Ford,
Because I'm not I don't know that much about
let's see if I just have
cars.
their symbols.
I I was going to mention as well. See on that T or the Tav, that was also one of the most, well, it basically was the national symbol of the Minoan civilization. It was
Hmm.
called the Labrys, and it's the double-headed axe. And it usually was right at the top was an eagle, sort of in the center, but it was it was the same idea as the Sol and Luna and the electromagnetism and such. But I just wanted to mention that as well. Yeah, but you're
Oh
totally
wow.
correct. You also have the 22 cards in the tarot, the 22 plates of the Splendor Solace. It's yeah.
Yeah, the 2 is an important number, especially in occult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, because 2 is what the first. It's actually representing like the first potential spark from
Mm.
that pure potentiality from 1. So like 1 is a
Mm.
straight line, right? It's a pole, it's a flag pole, staff, stake in the ground. 2 is that first like noise or vibration. So like literally this curve right here. That's supposed to be like a curve of sound breaking apart the 1 from its initial formation.
Mm.
So and then 3 is like the antiderivative of 2. So in calculus, I know nobody knows calculus very well. I was pretty terrible at it too. But the thing is how the graphs worked. When you take the derivative of 1, you would get 2. When you take the derivative of 2, you would get 3. And the symbolism of what the graph would project, you know. So like when you do like a number line graph,
Mhm.
and these are the symbols you'd see, they're parabolas, right? And I have a whole thing on parabolas somewhere. Right. It's another one. Yeah, this has a lot more of the text stuff. So asymptotes, parabolas, all these different things. Now these were just from some basic math stuff, but this is like when you plot coordinates on a graph and you have different equations and how they're made, you know, it creates these patterns in the graph, either a curve or a straight line. And where's the one for just parabolas in general? Thought it was in here. See, and this is like Pythagorean's theorem that's mapped out,
Mm-hmm.
and this is it's actually where you get the symbol for the swastika, stuff like that, the Temple of Man.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it comes out of
Okay.
Pythagorean's theorem being plotted on a number line graph. That's like where all these arcs are going out and stuff. I mean, it's better drawn out here. It's just sideways.
Yeah.
But I swear I had one of these was, yep, here it is. The parabola. And here's all the different Temple of Mans and swastikas or early swastikas and stuff.
Yeah, and it looks like a little person. Those symbols literally look like people.
Yep. Well, these are from different places, right? These are the Indus regions. This is Kanaga. I think this is the Mayan one. And then the
Mm.
hourglass is a more like 16th century type one.
It's Do you know what's interesting as well? That's also the name of the Lord or the name of Yahweh
Mm-hmm.
or the Shem in 2 Kings 21:7. It's also the Egyptian Halul, which became eventually the Hallelujah sign, which you see at the Battle of Rephidim. That I think it was Moses had to hold this sign up in this same W shape. I mean, that links to Poseidon as well, who had a temple at the center of Atlantis. And Poseidon obviously means Lord of the Earth in Attic Greek. It's a compound word. It's interesting
Oh
because the
yeah.
hourglass shape as well, if you look at the minimum orbital pattern, atomic pattern that is required for a toroidal moment, which what you're seeing there of the two circles with the heart in the middle, base which you find in the hemispheric pattern of the brain. as well, with the thalamus in the center, the Kodesh Kodeshim, or the Holy of Holies in the center, can join the two. That it's actually an hourglass shape, so you'll have four. It could be anything really. Four copper atoms surrounding the fifth of the the differentiated oxygen atom, or whatever it may be. You put that through I forget what the reaction's called. It establishes a toroidal moment. There's a guy called Martin Fleischmann who did work on that, and basically it links with the toroid, exactly what Reagan's talking about. So it seems like they're encoding in this symbolism some sort of well, they're philosophizing about it, but they're encoding some sort of technical ancient knowledge of electromagnetism and, well, basically cosmogony and etiology. Where did the cosmos come from? How's it built? What's its architecture? They know this.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And it's all about breaking the atom and finding the root foundation of creation, right? I mean, in modern times, they're talking about discovering the God particle.
Right.
You know, 30 years ago, it was about mapping the human genome, and 30 years before
Mm-hmm.
that, it was about mapping the human mind. So it's like these things have been projected, but when I say those phrases, what most people understand that is that they've already done it, for one. It's something that can be done. And number two, they explained it in a totally different way than what its actual applicability is in, life as we know it. So it's like when they said they could map the human genome, they talked about being able to clone people, right? That was the whole thing with
Mm-hmm.
it. Mapping the human genome, I don't think had anything to do with cloning. They were talking about wireless connectivity. They were talking about connecting to the frequency by which each person's DNA resonates at. That's what mapping the human
Right.
genome was truly about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But that's what I mean, where if you talk to anybody about it out in the street, your neighbors or something, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, did they end up making more clones after Dolly? Right? Like, that's all they're going to be concerned with.
Right.
But yes, Silas was absolutely right with the toroidal and the heart. Um, and I think our heart actually functions that way. I can't remember the doctor. It was like the doctor who unfolded 1,000 hearts, and he was trying to figure out how it actually works because the heart organ it doesn't look like this, right? It doesn't look like this shape. Like
Right.
that's not the shape of the heart. And I did
That's
this,
actually the 22, isn't it?
yeah,
It's the two
it's the
twos like
2-2.
facing each other.
Oh, that's right. They're like the two twos facing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here, I'll show you the twos together. I'm trying to think what it'll be under though, probably 7. Yep,
And
here it
Reagan, just
is.
for the room, are you comfortable with if people have questions and stuff? I just want to let the room know. Are you comfortable people asking, or would you rather us wait until you
No,
let me know how you want to set the
I'm
pace?
perfectly comfortable with people butting in, cut me off. If you're
Okay, cool.
tripped up on something, I'd rather you like just stop me and we can talk about that rather than ramble on into whatever and you're completely lost.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
So, but yeah, here's your two twos together with the heart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and then it's got these lines coming out. If you cross them over, it makes a fish. Your Jesus fish in the middle of the Vesica Pisces, Vesica
Oh,
Pisces.
wow. I never noticed that.
Hmm. That's what both of these are. Here's your two threes put together. They make the butterfly, right? The monarch butterfly, MK Ultra, da da da,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is your King of Swords. Which card is that?
That's one of the minor arcana.
Ah, okay. That's, yeah. And then sevens combined to make the Holy Trinity. And that's why, like I said, with the sevens, I think seven's always a very important number very important symbol.
Oh yeah.
It's the vector, right? Most symbols actually have 2 or 4 sevens in them. Like the Chevrolet bow tie is actually 4 sevens. It's 2 vectors on top of each other.
Hmm.
Hmm.
What about Reagan? What about the eight when it says messiahs? Like, why is it saying eight messiahs?
It's
And like,
saying the kings here. These are the minor arcana, as Silas pointed out.
oh, okay. So there's eight of them.
Hmm. Yeah, and then that would go with that whole Ogdoad right here. The superstructure Ogdoad. Here, I'll zoom in. Easier to read.
Yeah, that's like really confusing looking to me.
Yeah, it's like don't even worry about all the gematria numbers here. Just
Okay.
this superstructure of the celestial system, the celestial world of aeons is summarized. Aeons belong to purely ideal, nominal, intelligent, or super sensible world. So this is like completely in the spiritual world, right? This is talking about the demiurge, Sophia, any of
Okay.
your gods of myth and mystic who were the first, right? So, and they're broken down into the Ogdoad, which is actually these 8 here, even though they're like on top of each other.
Oh, okay. The nous, the logos. What is that other one?
Anthropos, yeah.
Anthropos, Bytheos.
Well, and
And
then
then
these
where
are
does
the
it go? Does it?
Decad, and this is the Doge-cad. So, like in mythology, in Greek or Roman mythology, this is the structure that they use, right? This is all these would be filled with Poseidon and Athena and Ezekiel and whatever other crazy names, Hercules, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like this is the overall structure that the Greek myth kind of reimagined, right, with Zeus and his whole pot, and then with whatever the Norse gods were, Odin, right, Odin and all those guys.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And you have the same thing in Christianity or any of the Abrahamic religions with Noah, Noah and the boat. That was that's based on this, right?
Mm.
Because you had
The
8 people.
generations, yeah.
There's 8 people in Noah's boat. You had Noah and his wife. You had his three
Oh,
sons,
wow.
and you had his 3 sons' wives. So that's eight,
Okay,
eight in the
wow.
boat with all the animals and all that, all of life, right?
I was going to mention as well, just really quickly as well, man, that in the Egyptian creation myth, the Ogdoad are the 8 primordial beings, and chief among them, I believe, oh God, what is his name? I'm going to have to look up. But one of the other Ogdoad spirits or deities
This
is
one,
Ptah.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's
Is yeah,
There's the
Ptah.
Ogdoad, yeah,
yeah, this is the Egyptian
exactly,
Ogdoad right
and
here.
the boat, yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's basically what you're seeing with the black hole and the white hole is like the vortical spiral of time. Again, we measure time via space and we measure space via time. So like what you're seeing with that other infographic with the Ogdoad, and they're all in pairs, in like the generations of Moses, all of it is syzygies. Syzygies are these sorts of divine pairings, because remember, God himself, or the prime cause of everything, can't be understood in its pure profundity, in its it's because it's a singularity, it's pure unity.
Right
So us being perceptual beings have to understand these things based upon negation, based upon demarcating and delineating them into form. And again, that's where we get the sol and the luna, sun and the moon, the male, female, the negative and positive charge. So God can only express himself through that coupling. Um, so this is why before this it would just be a pure abyss, because everything contained into wrapped into a singular point would just appear to us as nothing. So therefore, after this nothing diverges, this potential diverges into energy, then it begins to, create like what you're seeing here. Creating the white and the black. The light and the dark, and so on and
Yin
so
and the
forth.
yang.
All of these couplings, the yin and the yang, exactly, man. Yeah, yeah.
Got lots of stuff on
But it's
these.
a it's a paradox as well, because the opposite is defined by its opposite. The dark is only defined by its opposition to light, and vice versa. So both of them really, their existence is necessitated by the other's existence. So you're in this constant spiral of conflict, like a circle, like what Reagan's saying.
I think this graphic kind of expresses everything you were just saying.
Hmm.
Because it has the first logos, the father, which is just the circle or the dot. The second is the six, because it's the etheric. Third's the fifth. This is your 3 levels of Noah's Ark right here. And you have the 7 bodies. The 8 is the father. And it gets, I know even how I'm saying it, I'm almost confusing myself at the same time. But a lot of this actually all spurred from the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie for me. Because they were talking, or was it the second one maybe? They were talking about the 8 pieces of 9. Do you remember that conversation, Silas?
I do remember that conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I might actually have
yeah,
something on it. Got a lot of stuff on 8, but it's the same concept with like when we talk about the 4 corners of the world, but there's always the
There it is,
fifth
8
point.
pieces of 9. You had it up. Oh, okay, sorry.
Well, it's the same. Like this is just
Okay.
the 5 points of the 4 is very similar to like the 9 points of the 8. Yeah, I don't know why I put this fifth point, 8 direction. Oh, because that's what I'm saying is like the fifth point in the 4 diagram of like northeast, west, south. No one ever accounts for the fifth point, which is the crossing point.
yeah.
The, this middle point right here is your cross. You always have an extra one right there. That's what I'm trying to figure out how they labeled this 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, they skipped 5. Yeah, see, so they put the fifth point in the middle. That's why I labeled it that way. So the fifth is the crossing in this. But typically when you're talking about any shape, right, a square, a pentagram, hexagram, you're labeling how many points are around the edges, but you're never labeling the central point, which is the crossing, the vortex, the central toroid to the whole thing, right? Like we're always looking at a 2D version right now. We're looking at it from a top-down perspective. So, like, that's why I think Egypt gets brought up a lot, is because the pyramids are that. When you're looking at the top of a pyramid, this is what you're looking at, right? Like, you're going to be looking at the 4 points and see the central point in the middle is going to be the top of the pyramid. I don't know where I was going with that exactly. I just remember the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff and the 8 pieces of 9 always threw me way off until I came across these. Yeah, and this looks like how they do the
Wow.
made up stuff for the axis or tilt of the Earth. I don't think that's tilt. I think that's curvature. Is what this is, degree arc of curvature. So we don't exist on a plane. We don't exist on a ball, but there is a curve. And they
There's so much
Well,
in this one image.
oh, and this right here. Yeah, lots of things going on.
Yeah.
But that's where, if you want to stop and ask questions, Culty, like that's, you can always cut me off in all of this stuff. Otherwise, I'll keep flying through, um, and that's why I
Okay,
say I would.
I was gonna ask you if you have that image that Silas posted in the chat area. The one before, okay, starting back with the vortical maths uh, with the, it's got like the leaves in it, and I mean, all this stuff is very confusing for me. It's like,
Here, is
It's
this like
basically the Enneagram.
is this a base graphic of it right here? Something like this.
Um, no, it's the if you click off that one, I actually saw. I think you have it. It's that one right at the Eye of Ra. Sorry, the Eye of Horus.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
there you go, yeah.
369 one, yeah.
yeah. Um, I've posted a couple of other ones as well. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, there's like
I
hundreds
believe
of
Gerd.
variations of these. So it's, like this image
Mhm.
pops up in half my other images all the time, right? And this one a little bit.
So
Well,
what are we
it's
looking at as far as the Eye of Ra here, or Horus, excuse me?
Yeah, the only difference between them is the direction. So Horus is this little tail's going this way. Raj just goes the other way. So really they are like the
The
same
other way.
thing. They're just reflections.
Mm.
Um,
basically it's shown that the fractions of that image, which essentially is the anterior view of the amygdala and God, I think it's called basically the third ventricle, the center, the
Thalamus.
thalamic center,
Yeah,
yeah, of the brain.
I
It's an
have that.
anterior view of that, the eye. Basically, it's showing the fractions of that as an image correlate if you extrapolate those fractions out into their decimal form, and then you add those decimal values that you find individually, it all adds back to that enneagram of the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. Obviously, if you can put that as or project it as the enneagram, where you get, of course, the triangle of the 3 6 and the 9, and all of
Mm.
the various ones, the 1 2 4 5 8 and 7, they all add to individually. So, like, for example, 1 plus 2 equals 3, 4 plus 5 equals 9, 7 plus 8 equals
15.
15, but 1 plus 5 is
It's
6,
6,
obviously.
yeah.
So you get the 3, 6, and the 9. 3, 6, and 9 are the circular numbers, they're the heavenly numbers, like the circle itself.
There we go.
Um, and yeah, another thing to mention is the Capricar sequence, which is if you take 7, and you were mentioning it as well, Reagan, that the 7 creates the holy trinity of that triangle, right? The sort of crooked shape. And of course, Saturn was the 7th planet. It was the final planet in classical astronomy, and he was known as Chronos Anglometes, where we get our word angle from. Anglometes literally means the crooked one, he who plots or deceives. This idea of crookedness, and
Hmm.
if you take any number that isn't, of course, a multiple of 7 and divide it by 7, you will get a decimalized form of the Capricar sequence, which is 142857, which omits the 3, the 6, and the 9, which tells you essentially what you're seeing there. Um, in terms of all the numbers that aren't 3, 6, and 9, they are the sort of crooked numbers. They are the numbers that create, as you can see, the hemispheric divide, the dualism, um, the sort of wings, if you will, amidst the circle, amidst the triangle, amidst the synthesis. Um, yeah.
Which, there is that other circle though. Grethers, this one.
Grether's spiral. Okay, wow. This is a lot.
I know. So the thing that sticks out though is 5 and 7 here. these two are the ones that make star patterns.
Okay. And the thing I think about with the 5 is obviously like the pentagram and then the man, again, man standing with his arms out and his legs with the inside the pentagram. That's the 5, right?
Hmm.
That I just instantly think about that. But what about the 7 if you were going to go there?
Well, as we were saying, like the 7 is this very particular number that breaks down just fine. If you do any other number, you get like a decimal system.
Hmm.
Is this what you mean by your pentagram, man?
You know the typical picture of the man standing inside the
Oh,
star, like
yeah.
yeah,
But this is the star that they typically
yeah,
use.
right. It's a yeah, it's the same concept there, but
Let's
just
see
doesn't have the man
Yeah,
inside of it.
it's this one here.
which one,
I
like,
believe it's from the Rosarium Philosophorum.
yeah,
The
that one.
idea that man is the
There you
fallen
go.
star.
Hmm.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's what this is. So man is the bottom star, the 5 points here. Here, do like this side. And then the
Okay.
6 pointed is like the nous or the mind or the thought. And when you combine them together, you get a 7 pointed star. That's what this symbol is talking about. See the 5 and
Oh,
6 pointed star of Bethlehem creates the Vesca Pisces here. This is like Lucifer's sigil is buried in this. How sight and perception works. Like this is the eyeball
the
right here.
eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it.
Hmm.
It's also as well the canal, the birth canal as well, you know?
Yep. The
Yeah.
ovum.
Yeah, and those two triangles, the as above and so below, are in there too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, it just
At a certain
is
point. Yeah,
the symbol. If you split each one in half, right, or the whole thing in half,
yeah.
it's as above, so
Hmm.
below.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Well, the hexagram as well as the Sol and the Luna, the male phallus, and obviously the womb, or the chalice, the cup, which receives that light from the higher, or the water from the higher. So it basically is the lapis philosophorum. It's the philosopher's stone. That's what the philosopher's stone is. The stone which isn't actually a stone, according to the alchemists. So what it's talking about is exactly what Reagan stated. It's the nous or the psyche, and the psyche in its
Mm.
totality, if we were conscious of it, is both it's both of male and female. That not in a material sense, but of those two intertwining, um, sort of conflicting yet mutually interdependent forces that comprise God. Um, but of
And
course, they're divided in matter.
is this why there is that desire to merge the two, the male and the female, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, okay,
Hermaphrodites becoming it, to
yeah,
them it's not becoming a hermaphrodite. They're not like women becoming men or whatever. They're actually trying to become the original Adam, as they would say, by which was a hermaphroditic entity, the first creation of man, right? Like Adam and Eve, the Adam and Eve story. I believe
yeah,
it
because
was,
Eve was taken from Adam, so originally Adam was
well,
obviously had
there
both,
was
right?
six Adams before the Adam and Eve story.
Oh boy, I don't
Yeah.
know about that.
Because Lilith was also one of his wives originally before she was cast out,
I've heard that. I don't know really much about it.
but it was a different Adam. That's the thing. So it's a different story because there was six previous Adams to the Adam that was in the garden with Eve
6.
And that's from the Zohar.
from the Zohar.
That's how the Zohar looks at. I mean, the
Ah,
Zohar says other things as well,
Yeah, I
like
know.
um, bestiality and such in the garden. Yeah,
ooh,
very
gotcha.
very strange stuff. But yeah, that's exact. Basically, what they want to do is become if God is the singularity of both male and female, or positive and negative, they want to become both. They want to become the Homo Deus, thus they have to become the grey man, to merge the black and the white, like what Reagan's saying, Um,
Mm.
so to become God, you must merge the dualism into a synthesis. That's the big plan. That's the reason for CERN. It's the reason for all. CERN as well. Even the term CERN. I don't know if you have you probably do have an infographic for this, Reagan, because we were discussing it. But CERN in the Celtic language means it's cairn. It literally
Yeah,
means the horn.
like
And you have
Colonel.
John Dee in the tuba veneris, or the tuba veneris. So it's the same idea, or the horn of Venus, the horn of the light bearer, which was another appellation for Venus. Of course, the light bearer is Lucifer in Latin. So literally, the tuba veneris of John Dee is the horn of the light bearer. And what is the horn? The horn is the toroid. It's literally it's like the pyramid as well, right? It's, again, if you think of the pyramid, what is the pyramid? It basically is the architecture of the entire cosmos put into form, put into geometric form. So the apical point of the pyramid, the capstone, from from that point of that at the top of that capstone emerges all of the various, in the case of the pyramid, um, four major lines radiating down. And of course, if you also incorporate the shadows that are formed on the pyramid as well, it's eight. Um, but again, from that pyramid, all potentiality, all the multiverses are radiated out. Um, there's a guy called Galahad Eridanos. He's got a YouTube channel. He's just brought out this idea called, oh god, what was the video? The secret passageway theory. And in it, quite amazing. Um, he shows this. He visualizes it. It's better to visualize this. Basically, you can any point you radiate down from the pyramid, it takes that same radiating line that it parallels the the outside geometric lines, and basically what it becomes, what the symbol of the pyramid becomes, is time and space, and all of the potentiality of time and space. Um, all of
Silas,
the
do you
yeah
mind putting the guy's name in the chat there so I can go look it up later? I'm sorry to interrupt.
yeah, but that's exactly what Reagan's stating here.
Yeah, and I was kind of pulling up some of these different pyramid symbols, and as you're talking about time and space, and you can see the Gnostic name of God here. This is all, that's what it's saying, time and space. And it's talking about,
Mm.
you hear that phrase, squaring the circle. Well, this is squaring the circle.
Yes.
I-O. And the god in Egypt was Ra, at least in the end times, which meant sun.
And you also have the age of Rezon, or the son of Ra, or
Mhm.
the age of the son of Ra, or reason. Yeah.
This one's kind of got a few things all put together here, because it
Can you
has
zoom it
its.
in a little bit? It's just really small for me.
Mhm.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Which part do you want to look at? Because we
Oh,
were
well,
just looking,
wherever you want to start.
these were like what we
Wherever
were
you want.
already discussing, right? See, here's
Yep.
the
Mm-hmm.
Eye of Horus or Eye of Ra right here.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like that's where those eyes from Egypt, they actually came from the cross section of the brain. So the left and right half of the eyes are just talking about which half of the brain, either analytical or creative, right?
Yep.
Um, I know there's actually like entire faces, face of Egypt on under. Yep, is this one? Because this has all their symbols where they have like the ankh is the nose here, the scarab beetle's the mouth for your throat and everything. But then these two halves here of the eyeballs like are really the same thalamus in your brainstem. It's just the left and right half. That's all it's
I
from.
also see the fish
Hmm.
again, right?
Yep, fish right here.
Yeah, there and actually the eyes, both eyes, one eye and then the other
Oh
eye,
yeah,
kind of like
looking at
yeah.
each other. Yep. This one gets even more detailed than your whole head structure.
Oh boy.
But this is just showing that same Ogdoad type pattern. You know,
Yeah,
this is where it was derived from. It was derived from the minds of men. Here's your minds of men. It was literally taken from the
exactly.
cross sections of it. You know, your interdimensional relations of your skull to your brain, and then
Mm,
it's always symbolized by thought or time and space through the triangle, which is like that etherical, mystical tree of life root that we have in connection to pure potentiality, to the source, you know, or whatever you want to call it.
mm.
Well,
So,
it's basically the same thing you were shown with the eyes, that the dualism that you find is actually, it's sort of masking, it's an illusion. The dualism is an illusion.
right,
That
this,
that which is behind, basically it goes to the point of the center, the thalamus. So the thalamus is the seat of God, and um, God can only express himself in the world or perceive the world, as we were talking about perception, via the dualism, which is an illusion ultimately.
mhm, which this can all be expressed in the simple letter Y. Right? Y is the bifurcation. You know, it's the same as like looking at the pyramid here. This is the bifurcation of the Y. You would have your point going straight up.
Mm.
Here, I'll show you something that'll. Evolution of the alphabet. The logos one's pretty good too. But yeah, see like where this Y even came from, and the V, and all these different letters. They didn't even exist in ancient times, which is why you get a lot of crossover with the Tau. This symbol right here is
Oh,
the Tau, which became the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which would have been developed or made up during this time period. So that's what
oh
theirs
wow.
all end in 22. The Greeks for the and Romans had 24, and then our modern script is 26, right? I don't know how accurate this thing is necessarily, but it doesn't look too off, you know, if you were just to sit down with these symbols and kind of mesh them all together and everything. But same
I
thing
just
can
want
be.
to ask everybody, does anybody have any questions or want to interject anything? I'm
Not
trying to,
I.
I was just trying to post something and sorry about that. I'm just keep on posting these things and it's not coming out.
Oh, you're getting data.
Yeah,
I think
I'm trying to post the trident because somebody has posted yeah, the W shape, but it was making me think of the trident because before
I mean, this is
Silas was
it right
talking
here.
about
These,
Poseidon. Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard about the six atoms.
the six atoms prior to Adam and Eve. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
only in the Zohar. And maybe like
What's it?
the Zohar, it's kind of like the Hebrew secret Bible, is what I would call it.
Uh,
Yeah.
If you would like a copy,
the
we have
Hebrew,
plenty.
Hebrew atoms?
It's only how many thousand pages or
4,500 pages. But I mean, there's other Kabbalistic texts which refer to this, but the Zohar, of course, is the primary one,
Here you go.
as
It's 15
that
megabytes.
contains most of it.
I have a copy. I haven't opened it.
You have a
I
copy of
well, no, actually, I might have opened it, but I didn't actually start reading it. It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, 4,424 pages. Oh, look how many volumes it's broken into. That's why.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
That's really, you could
I
just
looked
read
over it.
one of these volumes just like you would read, a chapter out of anything. It goes on and on. They have lots of the symbols. Just right here's a Sephiroth, all in Hebrew. Crazy book. But it is overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
Lots of stuff in there.
What?
Here, I was gonna pull up something on Pythagoras.
Why do you say it's overwhelming?
So it's 4,400 pages long. Takes a long time to read.
Yeah, that's a lot of information. I actually started reading a book a couple of nights ago, but I was like, damn, I'm actually reading a book. It was about like medicine, like how to take care of your body. And a lot of things that like I read, like it seemed similar to the book that I was reading. I was like, because she was like talking about like how the body is just like a biological program, and like I don't know. She got like pretty like spiritual in it. Because she was like somebody who takes care. She was like a surgeon, so she was like taking care of people that are like that went to the ER and how they were like in life and death situations.
Okay. We're just gonna
Sorry.
proceed with the,
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
if you don't mind,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
no, no.
thank you.
It's cool. My bad.
All good. I don't mind some distractions and stuff. Gives me a minute, anyways. Get a little break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what, just looking through all this stuff. A lot of this stuff's overwhelming. Look how many photos there are with all this stuff everywhere. Here we go. Kind of mixing together a whole bunch of different things, but all of this is based off of Pythagoras's stuff. That's why I think they would call him the original mathematician. So, and like, I always think of Jack and the Giant Beanstalk, I think, when I'm looking at this stuff, because they're always talking about phi, and the other aspect to this
Mm.
in pyramid math is phi. I don't know if I can find that one off the top of my head. That would be under phi and phi.
Fee fi fo fum.
Phi phi fo
Yeah.
fum. Yeah, I was like, really? I'm like, that's where that came from?
Well, that whole story is so symbolic, right? I mean,
Hmm.
he
Oh, here it
it's
is.
like the
Phi phi fo fum.
climbs up the whatever.
Yeah, the beanstalk. Yeah, absolutely. The same the vortical spiral again, isn't it?
Well, and look, this is just like looking at that heart diagram, right? With phi on this side and phi on this side. See, phi is measuring this arc length right here, and phi is measuring this arc length. And with these
Oh
two, you
wow.
could
Hmm.
structure the entire pyramid. It lines up with the golden spiral here. You can kind of see it rolling around. And this is,
Young also Oh, sorry, man. You finish.
I was going to say, it's got this triangle specifically doing the relation to the Sphinx from the Great Pyramid. This is like a whole separate triangle here, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember, but because if you actually look at the overlay of the three pyramids with this where the Sphinx is supposed to be, you'll actually be able to get these exact measurements all the same. So not
Mm.
only is it laid out an exact measurement when you're looking at it from the side view, but if you're looking from a bird's eye, all these things line up. And what it does is it creates like a super pyramid that's not seen. It's not built out of brick, but it's a super pyramid of harmonics in which you're generating a ton of energy is what happens when you do something like that. Like in electroculture. Anyone here studied electroculture and gardening?
Yeah, I've seen some videos on that with where they use the metal
The copper pyramids that they
yeah,
create. Yes, they
yes.
create it using these numbers right here. This is what these ratios are what they're created using in order to create an energy to propagate plant growth. So these pyramid structures and how they work, they actually funnel energy into a toroid. And so the exact measurements, all they're doing is creating a crystal lattice structure by which this energy is funneled into a singular point within like the center of the pyramid, which is
And so they've
just
had this
crazy.
technology for growing bigger vegetables and whatever for I mean for a long time, but why is this just like it seems like it's just coming around within the last I don't know, it's
10 years, 20 years.
that's what I was going to say 10-ish years.
Oh, I think it's been suppressed for a very, very long time. If you were gonna sell Miracle Grow, you had to make sure that none of the farmers were getting out there and telling everyone that you could make these little pyramid structures in your gardens to create
Oh yeah,
large watermelons
there
and
you
stuff.
go. It's always about the money.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, currency, right? That's all money is, currency, seas of the current. It's all about flow and motion. So, in order to keep the wheel turning, you have to keep the currents and the seas moving. Just a little coded in the language there, like they
I
say.
was going to mention.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, no, no.
Um, I was just going to say with the fee fi fo thumb, I just looked up the etymology of thumb, and I thought there was maybe something to it. My Skyrim brain was like going to the thumb, and but interestingly, it comes from the Proto-Germanic thumo, and then the Proto-Indo-European thum or thum, which is to meaning to grow. So the phi and the phi together, that positive and negative, establishes the growth phase of, I guess, in this sense, the world tree. Um, that then branches off and creates all of these various multiverses of time and space and what have you. But interestingly, as well, with the golden ratio of 1.618. And obviously, you also have 137, which is encoded in the Bible. That's the golden section. Then you take that away from the 360 degrees, you get 323. But sometimes it's if you look at the decimalized form, it can be rounded down to 322. That's where the 322 comes from with the skull and bones and such. Um, that's also linked as well to an ancient war in Greece, but won't go into that. But the interestingly, young in Aeon, I've just finished reading that, and he called God the circle without a circumference. And what does that spiral? What is a spiral? But a circle without a circumference, in a sense. And if you were to look at that spiral and extrapolate it out, um, both to its greatest microcosm and its greatest macrocosm, of which there are none because it's infinite.
The
You know,
asymptote
it
here.
just yeah, it just continues for forever. So that is God, the circle without a circumference, the golden ratio. And of course, what does the philosopher's stone do? Um, it changes base metals like lead, which is the metal of Saturn, the metal of the abyss of the roots, into the metal of gold, which is purity. It is without impurity. It is. It's it's non-perishable as well. So it's basically the gold is God. It's all obviously it sounds similar as well. Gold and God. It's you've only got the L letter differentiating the two words. Yeah, the I am. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what this whole philosopher's cross is all about. Got your
it's
7
also
steps. I like this Jacob's ladder. What's the fucking point? It's like the kid was just thinking while he was typing all this out.
I can't even see it. What does it say, Reagan? I
Right
can't see it.
here. Can't see that.
Jacob's ladder. What's the fucking point? Where is the summit? Let us all guess. Mount Everest?
With all
What does
the
that say?
due
With all due
respect. Well, it's, yeah,
Oh,
see.
okay. David says in the Valley of the Dead. Okay. Thank you.
basically what he's stating is the fool's journey. It doesn't matter what path you take. You either begin as the foolhardy hero and then you end as um the heroic fool, or you begin as the heroic fool and you end as the foolhardy hero. But whatever occurs, you eventually reciprocate into the next phase. It's the same with Jacob's ladder or the stairway to heaven. Again, there is no paradise, there is no heaven. The only exit, the only way to find God is not through it's not through the church, it's not through trying to find heaven, it's not through externalizing all of this. It can only be found within.
Right on.
Um, so uh, both paths are an illusion, if you will.
Well, they
If
just
you go
do a
down or
circle.
up,
Look, it's just doing a
yeah,
circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, right? You're just going around and
Right.
around.
it's the Ouroboros. Yeah,
I was gonna say, where's those, I got those circle graphs, the GIFs. I'll just power, oh, where'd they go? Here they are. Nope. Here's one of them, but this has all sorts of stuff going everywhere. But you can see how it's like as this wheel turns, the cycles go, right? Things just go up and down all the time. Now this is acceleration, velocity, and displacement all against each other, which is like how 3D reality is produced, is through these three things turning all the time. Then there
and
should
the
be
circle is the seed as well.
sine
That's
and cosine. That's what it was.
mhm.
These two. Seeing the same thing as like this shows more like the waves producing the circle, right? You can look at it either way. But as the cosine's traveling up and down, right? This could be like a valley. This is the valley of the sine. This is your up.
Mm.
So the thing is just like this GIF constantly repeats, that's how it works, right? That's how a wheel rotates. It's constantly going up and down, left and right, whatever it's doing, you know. That's I think like one of the Christ stories where he's on a boat out in the ocean and there's waves and stuff. Like it's kind of expressed this way through religion because they use these things in order to manipulate people, and that's why you seed bits of truth into things so that you draw people in. That's the hook. The hook are the bits of truth. The line and the sinker is the rest of the garbage that you get pulled in with, right? But like a bit
Mm.
of truth and something like the Jesus is on a boat, they're traveling across some river and there's a storm that comes and Jesus is sleeping on the back of the boat and all the people are running around the boat freaking out. They all think they're going to die and they go and they're waking up their savior, right? Hey, Jesus, Jesus, stop this storm. And, you know, he gets up and goes, why? Like, the storm will pass. He's like, you go through good times and bad times. It's like, beyond this storm is another storm, and beyond that storm is calm waters, and beyond the calm waters is another storm. It's just a repeating process. You know, if you're always looking outwardly, you'll never look in, right? If they can keep you in that repeating process of always looking outwardly, you're always going to be lost. You're always looking for the next storm. You'll be concerned with this type of stuff, with these wheels turning all the time.
Yeah.
If you actually slow down and think about what you're seeing, what is actually in motion, what is actually moving, what actually occurs, right? Like, is it the storm itself that's terrifying, or is it the fear of what the storm could possibly do prior? You know,
Mm.
there's just like a
It's
different view of
also
it, of this
it-
circle
it's
tetrad.
also it's also as well. It's the same idea as the eye of the storm. So in the center of that circle, again,
This little thing here.
uh, yeah, the only way, again, you are the center of the circle. You are the center of the radius of perception. Um, so the only real way to stop the storm affecting you is to become like Christ, is to take that fifth point on the quaternity, if you will, and to become the spirit, right? Like the fifth point of the pentacle. It's to become that eye of the storm. It's to emerge from the heart, if you will, that middle organ um, between the upper and the lower, the positive and the negative to the left and the right. So, of course, the horizon, the vertical is heaven and hell, and the horizon is well, it's the horizon of the earth. So that is what the Christ symbolism entails. Also, as well, with the INRI, which you find in Catholicism, the esoteric translation of that is Igneus Natura Renovator Integra, which is roughly translates as through fire is the earth reborn whole. Um, Basically, the idea is that if also as well, Reagan, if you go back to that black hole sun infographic, because there was something really interesting there with Saturn, and yeah, you'll notice the three sine waves
It even
emerging
says
out from Saturn, and it's exactly what Reagan just stated. It's those three. Well, it's the tria prima. It's the sulfur, mercury, and salt, which is symbolic for the positive, the negative, and the union of the opposites
this
of the
one.
two.
Mm.
Yeah. So what is left after obviously the sulfur or the sun burns mercury or the information, the current, the water. Well, when the water is evaporated by the heat, all that's left is the salt of the sea. And it links as well with the fish, which is found on the alchemical hand too. It's a symbol of Mercurius. What is Mercurius? It is this enigmatic force which binds all things together. It is that which maintains the transformative qualities within matter. It's what transmutes things into other things. It's what transmutes um, perceptual state into another perceptual state. Um, so it's this constant sort of homeostatic recycling of not just matter but of consciousness, perception, all of this, and that's what the fish is. And the reason for the fish, and Jesus states, "I'll make you fishers of men," is because the fish exists in the salty sea. He exists as, and you also see in the alchemical hand, he has the fire surrounding it. So he becomes the conjunction of the opposites. He becomes the synthesis of the synthesis, like what
Mm.
Christ was. Um, that center of the quaternity, and the fish as well itself is a creature of the abyss. It's a creature that never sees light. So that to make oneself a fisher of man, is to literally bring people up from the abyss so that they can see the light of the truth. And of course, the truth shall set you free. And what is the truth? Well, the truth is that, well, basically, religion is a control mechanism. Um, the systems of power are a control mechanism, and it's to deny you your agency within this world. It's to deny you the understanding that ultimately, under the light of God, of which we are all, I guess, a fractal fragment of, we are all equal in that. So, of course, this is the reason they don't want this getting out. See, like what Reagan was stating, this has great significance in how it can almost, if you use it, and if you take this and reframe it, or in a sort of misleading light of religion, right? And what we've stated here, you could take this and make your own religion. That's how interconnected all of this is. It basically emerges from a common thread. All religions do from this. Um, if you reframe this, you can control people, because what we're stating here, and what you can see within the sacred geometry, the astrotheology, all of that, is it's something that seems to be very attractive to one's subconscious. We're almost attracted to the savior archetype, just inherently. We're attracted to the 33 because it obviously links with the 33 vertebrae of the spine, leading up to heaven, the stairway to heaven, and all of these ideas, Jacob's ladder, the stone as well. And so there seems to be all of these almost primordial symbols that just, you could say, if they're weaponized in a certain way, they attack the subconscious. They're able to rein in the subconscious and to control man through the reframing of it through religion and such. Yeah.
I just was pulling up some of the symbols for that. You said Inri. This has way too much on it, to be honest. But it still has the dippers and all these other little symbols. Because all I would tie the Inri to is the Cairo, right? And I could tie it to like Cairo, Egypt. That's brought up a lot in modern media. Um, where'd that other one go? Oh, I see. It's put in like alphabetic order. Weird.
The one that you had before with the salt, it just reminded me of like the Holy Trinity, the three circles, of the Mercury and the in the triangle. Yeah, that one.
Hmm.
Salt, sulfur, Mercury. Yeah. Energy,
Mm.
information, and salt structure. Okay.
Yeah, so you have information gets chopped up by energy into a structure. When it's all evaporated, this is all you'll be left with. It's just structure. These two
Mm.
things will burn up.
And can I ask you guys a question about this? Does this have any kind of relation to the story of Lot's wife as she gets turned into a pillar of salt?
Absolutely. Yeah, Lot's wife. What was it? Lot's leaving the town, and she looks
Yeah,
back and
and she
turns
looks
into it.
back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is the same story as Eve and that Eden biting the apple. It's really not any different. It's just a different symbolic representation. One's visual and one's indulgent.
Mm.
But as far as that goes and like turning into salt, that's the same thing with the Medusa story, right? Or Gorgons in
Oh,
general.
right.
Yeah. If you
Yeah.
look into her eyes directly, you'll turn into a pillar of salt. But remember, you could look into a mirror and look at Medusa just fine, right? You can look at the reflection.
Mm.
It was all about
Mm-hmm.
direct, you know.
That links back to Mercury, because Mercury itself, like water, you never really see water. You never really see Mercury. I know that's a probably pretty controversial statement to say, but if you look into especially Mercury, you don't see the Mercury, you see what the Mercury reflects. So within the microcosm, a drop of Mercury is contained the whole world. It's like our mind. The whole entire world, all potentiality is contained in our mind as a perceptual seed, if you will. Until we obviously interact with it and view it, and like what Reagan's saying, until you break down and evaporate the duality, for thus to for therefore to emerge the sort of son of the sun, the synthesis. So yeah, I mean it's found everywhere. Even Hegel's triadic dialectic, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. All politics is based upon that. All propaganda is based upon it. All drama. Um, what you're seeing here as well, it's found in everything. The fabric of absolutely everything. So you'll have throughout the exposition of a story. In fact, the only way human beings can really understand the exposition of a narrative is through the constant reoccurrence of thesis and antithesis, or literally problem and reaction, and in the solution, the conclusion, the closure, and in the entire narrative itself is based upon that. And it always takes the hero's journey. It always usually will. The hero's journey is the fool's journey, of course,
Right. You
because
brings you
yeah,
back to the tarot again.
hmm exactly.
Well, even the tarot, right? It's 22 cards, just like the 22 Hebrew letters. They all sync up in various ways. Each Hebrew letter is symbolic of a number. It's symbolic of like an actual physical thing. It's symbolic of a thought. Um, and each one of those thoughts, symbols, and everything it's symbolic of are shown in the respective tarot card by which the tarot card was created. And even like the 22 Hebrew letters were supposedly made out of a flame. So like if you've ever sit in front of an open flame, right? You can actually see all of the Hebrew letters pop up within the dancing of the flames. That's how it was supposedly written in the first place. And I bring that up specifically because, like fire, they try to tell us that there's some person who actually discovered the wheel, and there's some person who discovered fire. Neither of those things ever happen. The wheel is just an inherent thing that exists here. It never needed to be designed. It was just there. A boulder is a wheel. The top of a hurricane or a maelstrom or anything like that is technically a wheel. Fire itself, it's already existent here. It's already been an occurrence. Like it's something you can discover as in find, but it's not something that's discovered as in created necessarily, right? And really, that could go for just about anything. Nothing's ever really been uh, created by a man. It was created as a thought of an idea before this place was ever even projected. It's always been in existence. You know, the expression "there's nothing new under the sun" will always hold true because everything is projected out through the sun's entropic forces and supposedly goes into the moons or into the black hole sun, and it's a constant flowing process. And I think that's why all your great spiritual teachers and philosophers and such, like they're always speaking of the great river of life. It's a constantly flowing input output design. So like this place in particular where we're existing exists based on pure entropy. But if we lived in pure entropy with no extropy, I guess you would call it, it would eventually inflate and explode, right? So there has to be like some sort of release. So that's why I give a lot of credit to those who see the sun as like the input energy to the system that we live in, and the moon as like the escape energy. the release, to release the pressure from the system.
Mm-hmm.
But everything here that exists always exists. You know, it's only in
That's the
that escape is got to be only pulling the souls or pulling on certain things that are necessary to be removed from the system to allow it to continue functioning on. That's why I never really worry about any end time stuff. All of your height of end times eras are just great moments of extropy. There's lots of things that need to be shed and cut and rid of. And what happens during those times? Well, there's lots of transgenderism and androgyny, and there's lots of crazy stuff going on. You see an explosion into escapism. You see a high mental breakdown and all that kind of stuff. All of that's just being released out of everybody, out of everything. All that energy is being emitted out into the earth or where we exist. And it'll just be absorbed out through that release. When you get too much pressure, it's like it works like a release valve. And I think that's why you get how the moon goes through its phases. It's only releasing what it needs to release. There's something about the physics of the environment here that everything works on like a 70-30 pull, and I use those specific numbers almost every time because it is 7 and 3, 37. You know, they're very, very significant to all of the base 10 mathematics here. And again, that goes along with why I say 7 so important. It's a very, very symbolic number. Uh, that binds everything together. Yes, the 369 is a very big thing. There's all these other combinations, golden ratio, bunch of combinations of numbers, but to me, it's that 7 number. I always relate it to the scythe because it's the cutter, and it's what actually cuts and releases everything out of whatever it is. Could be the moon, I don't know.
Oh no, it certainly is. Yeah, the moon is linked with this idea of gestation, oblivion. The idea of oblivion from its sort of Greek idea, or the Hellenic idea surrounding it, is um, this notion of when one dies, and this is found at the end of Plato's The Republic, where he relays this story, I forget, of the individual, but that this individual supposedly dies, or he goes through a near-death experience, and when he's going through the process of reincarnating, he has to drink from the river of forgetfulness. So you essentially, who you are in this life dies with you, but that which provided you the spark, it's incomprehensible to us, but that which provides us the spark of vitality continues on. That is infinite, if you will. It's the seed of perception. It's the seed of the world. So it's the idea that with the eyes and the thalamus, the eyes lead back to the thalamus in a sort of nervous system sense. But and of course the eyes themselves, this duality, it's totally it's an illusion, ultimately. Um, and you see with of course the moon. The moon is linked with Saturn. If you look at the zodiacal wheel, Saturn and or Cancer, the moon, and Saturn, uh, which is Capricorn. So we're getting back to the Mercurius, the fish. Capricorn is the sort of symbol of pure duality, because you have the seahorse, which is the fish. It has the lower body of the fish, thus, and the upper body of the goat. The goat can climb any vertical face, thus he is the heaven. He's that which can reach heaven, or can access heaven, and of course the fish is that which can access the abyss. So it's akin to Saturn, of course. Saturn is this thing which, in an archetypal sense, like what you were seeing in the black hole sun, You also see it with the currents, the sine wave, Aquarius, which is another sign of Saturn, or it's linked to Saturn traditionally, at least. In the modern sense, it's linked to that of Uranus, which is Saturn's father in mythology. But um, the Aquarius, the water pourer, he's almost like this, again linking to the age of man, or the coming age of man, with the technologies, the informational age we're in. The AI is another one. So you're seeing what you're seeing in the Aquarian age, or at least the transition to it, is exactly the sign of Saturn. It's the sign of the water bearer, which is the three sine waves stacked vertically on top of one another. Again, linking back to that Tria Prima. Um, and of course, the the lunar phases can also be shown as 8, right? Again, that same spoke or Chi-Rho design. Um, and that as well, looking to the macrocosm, that links to the world ages. So each of the various world ages, if we were to extrapolate this out into the major astrological world ages, so beginning with Libra, we start off with 15,150 BCE to 13,000 BCE, and then you count a quarter up to the oh no, pardon, 4.
Should be
Yes,
40.
sorry. You start with the age of Virgo, which is 13,000 BC, and then that goes to 10,750 BC. That ended at the last glacial maximum. And then you go forward another 4 signs up to Gemini, which is 6,450 BC to 4,300 BC. And then our own world age starts at the age of Taurus. So we go from Taurus, which is 4,300 BC, and we're going to end in the age of Aquarius, which is 4,300 CE or AD. So, typically, if you look at the Abrahamic worldview, these occur, these astrological ages, grand astrological ages. If you were to chart this out on the zodiacal wheel, it's literally cut into quarters. So Taurus to Aquarius is 1/4 of that. And that's shown on the World Tarot card as well, with the 4 major royal stars. It's basically the 4 major astrological world ages. And again, it's totally repeating, it continues. But the Abrahamic view is that these occur within 7,000 years, or 6 steps, 6 millennia, or 7,000 years, which of course mirrors creation, the 7 days of creation. And then, of course, the 7th planetary genii is Saturn. The 7th day is Saturn's day. It's holy to the Abrahamic religions, Shabbatai, which is obviously the Hebrew word for Saturn as well. So there's a link with the archetype of Saturn. There's a link with the lower, or using the lower, or the abyss itself, to reach the upper. Of course, Saturn goes by Kronos. He goes by Anglometes, literally the crooked one. So he's the father of the conspiracy, the father of conspiracies as well. The father he who conspires in the shadows, in the abyss. You have other ideas such as Choronzom, which the core and the crone are quite similar, probably interconnected. And obviously Kronos, the onos in Greek means donkey. The donkey is it is the
Fool.
sort of animalistic symbol of Yahweh as well, and of Set in the Egyptian religion, the god of darkness in the desert. Sorry, Reagan, jump in, man.
I was gonna say the fool. I mean the donkey.
The fool, exactly. Yeah, the fool.
Fool.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
shown in Shrek. Right? He was a total fool the whole time. He was the jester.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
So the spirit of the fool must always make itself known. It must always express itself throughout any age. And even these ideas of you see in the Abrahamic religions, I mean, every one of them, and there's a few other religions that also do this, where they believe they are the chosen. So that idea may link to the chosen of that specific age. Those who have to express the archetype of the fool, and the archetype of the fool is essentially he who is sort of forced, by the white dog, which is Sirius, right? We were talking about the pyramids there. The pyramids is basically the terrestrial equivalent, if you were to look at it on a bird's eye view, of Orion's belt. Orion's belt to the east links or points to Sirius. To the west, it points to Antares, I believe. So we don't have to go into that, but it's one of the royal stars in the World Tarot card. It's symbolized as the eagle. But basically, what it seems to be indicating is that man in each astrological age, each of these quarters of that grand zodiacal wheel is pushed to fall over the precipice, to fall across the edge, to perpetuate these cycles. And the grand game of alchemy, or the grand game of, I guess, truth seeking, is how the hell do we break the cycle? And do we want to break the cycle? Because if we break the cycle, does that mean the end of the cycles? Which
Unraveling space-time.
perhaps, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's basically what we're discussing here. That's fundamentally, and of course with CERN, that's what they're seeking to do. I mean, make no qualms about it. They want to understand exotic particles, because what they're looking for is they're looking for or they're trying to map out the fabric of reality, all the way from the microcosm to the macrocosm, because they believe if they can understand that, then they can literally recreate matter. They can transmute it. They can discover the ultimate philosopher's stone. They can break the cycle. They can perhaps even um, recreate nature to their own liking, become the architect of their own cycle. This is the idea of the algorithm in AI as well. Um, but all the folly of it, this is the foolishness of it, is all of it is basically just a shadow of a shadow. And that's basically what you're seeing with the hexagram there of the cube, the isometric, the central shape of the isometric cube, is that the cube itself, which is the algorithm, which is the earth, it's nature, it's all of man's, it's man attempting to, carve out the straight lines of perfection within what is really, a conjunction of chaos, of the male and the female, the positive and the negative. It's a temporary order amidst an eternality of a sea of chaos. It's foolishness from the beginning. It's all they can really establish is a shadow. Um, but of course, as well, the shadow will always retreat when the light returns. So it's
Oh
what they
yes.
establish is temporary.
Right. So that's what this whole building of the Tower of Babel is really, a building of the shadow that'll eventually just diminish. It always does. That's why the story ends that way every time. You know.
I just want to say, Johnny, if you want to jump in here, Johnny, feel free. I see your comments.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to see comments too much because I'll have to show everybody what I'm looking at all the time.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to I just see he's making some cool comments in the
Yeah,
comment
he
section,
wants to jump
but
in.
maybe he can't. Maybe he can't talk right now, so that's okay too.
Mhm.
But this one's got a lot on it, this slide. Wow. Can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little blurry. I don't know if you're gonna be able
Oh,
to really read
okay.
these. That's what some of these images I just need to run through a enhancer, but I can always just message them to you too, or you can find them. Because just so everybody knows, like 90% of these images come from Pinterest.
Yeah, you told me that. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's like now my thing's covered in it. Look, I don't have to do anything. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
everything. Yeah.
all this stuff, right? Like
Mm.
I saved a lot into that folder, but half the time I'll just come in here too. I print stuff out, you know.
Oh, there's that W on the heart as well, the shin letter.
Or was
Those
that
are the three
right here?
ventricles of
Yeah.
the heart too. Yeah,
Shut up. Yep.
yeah. So that's an anterior view of the heart. It's three ventricles, the same idea. And if you look at Jerusalem, it's etched into Jerusalem too. 2 Kings 21:7. The name of the Lord is etched into Jerusalem.
Yeah, here.
Um,
This basically is
yeah,
saying the same thing. It's got the shin right in
yep,
the middle. Mhm.
yeah. Yeshua. Yeshua is basically um, it's the three flames, if you will. It is I believe it's also pictographically shown as teeth. So that's the same idea of the you posted it there with the Greek soter, which soterology is like the idea, the study of saviors
This one.
throughout. Yeah, so you have the soter, which is the savior of Christ, but you also have the sator, which is obviously the root of Saturn. It's the cedar. Literally, he who sows. So this it's like the fool. It begins with the fool and it ends with the fool. It begins with what you believe to be the savior, but also that he is also the seeder of the next cycle. It's uh, it's the
Yeah, it's
eternality of
these.
time.
Oh, these are. Zoom in for culty.
Thank you.
No, these are like just straight from etymology online. What each word meant out of the Seder square.
Do you, in fact, do you want to break down this Sator square as well, Reagan? That might be um.
Like in that's what this is basically. It's just matched up with the because the whole Inri Christ Cairo here was taken from the Seder square. That's where it comes from. This whole Jesus anointed uh, God, Son, Savior, right? They all come from the
Mhm,
Seder square, which the Seder, being Jesus in this case, is the first stage, which is thought, if I'm remembering right. It is like pure potential moving. A repo is like sound put into motion from a state of rest. Tenet, the principle, opinion, dogma is like the stationary, I mean, it'd almost be like Earth is your tenet, right? This is the place that was created from the Seder and the Arepo, the sow seeder, right? Created Earth by planting a seed. And then tenet is also doubly as like watcher, right? Like it's oversight. So it's basically Seder, Repo, Tenet is all just describing a farmer, you could say. Um, Opera, or the actual sound and vibration, that could really be related to like love, which would be tending to your garden, right? So when you tend to your garden, a lot of people don't understand that harmonics and sound play a huge role in plant growth and in seeding and all that kind of stuff.
We're get we're getting a little bit of an echo.
It's my fault. I have my microphone on. I'm gonna mute it.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So, and then it ends with rotas, which is the motion or the rowing, the actual movement, like what we exist in. And that's what we're always talking, or what I'm talking about, rotas, rotation, right? And that's why
Mhm.
when Silas was talking about everyone really seeks a savior, well, yes, because you live in motion, so you're always going to be looking for your savior, which actually is the thing that's moving. So it's always moving. You're always going to be looking for it. It's just like a
Mm.
shadow. You're chasing a shadow. Now, all of this just continues to repeat. So it's a wheel, right? And that's what I think a lot of people get stuck on. They get stuck in it just like the tenant does. You get stuck in the middle and you can't see beyond the before or the after because that's how we perceive how we're existing here. And I've heard other people explain this in a bunch of different ways that all can make sense. It's just they're looking at it in different perceptions. So, like, that's where ideas like simulation theory or crater Earth theory or all these other, the matrix, we live in a matrix, all of those ideas spawn from this. Those are all what I would consider just slight delusions of what this actually is, which is just the wheel of life. Life just continues on, it's constantly going. The reason that it's built that way is it's self perpetuating. If we weren't always seeking a savior, you'd stop moving. You would become pure potential. And I mean, a simple experiment to see what happens when you stop moving without hurting yourself would be to fill up a tub of water and just let it sit still in a room of your house. What'll happen?
It'll become stagnant.
Well, and it'll
Decay.
decay. It'll grow dirt and moss and bacteria and develop all sorts of poisons and it dies, right?
Mm.
Dead water, right? They have like the Dead Sea over in the Middle East. That's kind of a different, that's pumped full of toxins, but same concept. It's still just still water. It's not moving. Life is a moving target. It's always in motion. You're always in
Well,
motion.
let me ask you though. I mean, eventually it would grow some kind of a living um I don't know what you would call it, but like a little, like,
Moss,
right, the fungus,
fungus, yeah.
um and then a little amoeba or whatever you call those little, what do you call those little
Oh,
fish-like things that
Yeah,
uh,
amoebas. Amoebas, they're
amoebas.
the
amoeba?
single-celled
Okay.
organisms, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're going to be growing and prospering from another motion. That's not from the water. Like the water's giving it life, but it's the motion of like the air that carried the bacteria over to the still water to allow that to happen.
Mm.
You see what I mean? Like the water sitting
Okay.
still, not producing any life. The only life it ends up producing is like decay, fungus, or other
Right,
things
right.
that are
Okay.
also life. It's not like it's a bad thing. We also utilize all of those things. You have swamps and ponds, and there's all sorts of life in it, right? But that's still water. Still
Yeah.
water attracts those things. When you go to like a river, you're not going to find as much as that of that, right? You're still going to find like moss, you'll find trees, you'll find bush, you'll find vegetation, right?
Yeah.
So like in either
Yep.
case, like that's what I'm saying, neither's bad. Both promote life, but the idea is the water, right? Water's the key element that we're always going to talk about that's very it doesn't act like most other things here. It's almost invisible. It's more dense than like most heavy metals by itself. Like at certain temperatures, like it acts way different than any other material in the world. Um, all of our measurements are based off of 1 gram of 1 milliliter of water. That's what all of density is based off in our entire measurement universe of how we understand the world as people. And that's what science has put on us and these other things, but they obviously derived it from some sort of truth and reality. So like you have to think about it in a duality. That's what always sucks. You have to look at it from both
Yeah.
sides, but we stand in the middle, right? We're like in the
Mm.
centerpiece all the time. We live in the present. We exist and perceive everything in what we consider the present moment, which is stillness, right? And that's how you get into a meditative state. That's how you pray. That's how you rest. I mean, so those are necessities to the whole thing. So I'm not saying either one's good or bad. I was just making note of like still water does this as opposed to moving water, right? And
Right.
one seen as in more of a positive connotation where the other is seen in a negative connotation. But ultimately, life is still being produced, right? Decay still occurs. All the good and bad comes all at once. And that's the Seder square, the circle, the talking about sine and cosines. It does come off very negative a lot of the times outside of the few positive notes, but in reality, it's both things are the necessity for propagation. They're the necessity for life to exist. Like you can't have one without the other in this realm. Like, we're not talking about in the astral or in your etheric bodies or any type of thing like that. Purely here in this dimension and how we exist. That's how it seems to operate. We haven't seen it any other way, right?
I have a
Yeah.
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I appreciate y'all. This is a good refresher in a lot of ways, and also, new wrinkles on the brain are a good thing. When it comes to stillness, like we know that the still waters are vibrating, that everything is vibrating. So when you work that into a perspective, in this case of meditation, the question is, would you consider a good way to put it is that meditation is not necessarily stillness, since that is an impossibility with everything being vibratory frequency, that you're settling into a particular vibratory motion of frequency, if you will, and riding that as still as it may seem, that it still is more or less a wave to exist in. Obviously there's infinite waves, so to exist in a certain vibration which we would perceive as stillness.
Yeah, I
That,
mean, how you
you
asked
know what I
it, you
mean?
kind of answered it too.
Yeah, that, like, you know what I mean? Because like I think that it's that ending of the wheel that is the fool's errand, is wanting to, whatever you want to call it, find the end of the wheel, which is impossible, or break the wheel is obviously man's desire to chase the Godhead, is, to find who made the wheel and break the wheel and start your own
Mhm.
wheel. But that
I, I think
finding a bit of solace is knowing that that is not possible, and being okay with that, but existing inside of a chosen frequency. Obviously, we have to deal with unlimited frequencies, going to the store, arguments, blessings, curses, the good and the bad, the dark and the light. But that for oneself to be comfortable within the wheel is to exist not in impossible stillness, but within a certain vibration, few of which can be seen by others as you get on a different point of the line, or up and down the levels, whatever you want to call it.
I think it's ensuring that, again, visualizing it, that we take this, we position ourselves in the center of that wheel, because the wheel itself is merely just the sort of two-dimensional understanding of the vortex. If we were to look at that wheel and view it really what it is from its three-dimensional perspective, it is, uh, again, with those spokes, um, sort of converging in a center, it's given the idea of that vortex, that vertical spiral, or of course even like a like a cone or a pyramidal structure as well. What with meditation, if you were to think of it like, and I've been trying to do a bit of that hemisync, and the way that they visualize meditation and even trying to astral project and all of that is that you have uh, two two dualist or two polarizing frequencies, like the negative and the positive, I guess, and you're trying to vibrate them to such a point where they enter a sort of equilibrium state with it. I think it's usually in the heart or whatever chakra, I forget now, but it's like you're trying to get to a neutralizing point where you're neither not too up or too down or too left or too right, or you're in a sort of Goldilocks zone, if you will. Um, so it's not necessarily stillness, but it's a sort of artificial stillness because you're in a state where the polarities of the vibrations are sort of neutralizing each other and right in the middle. So you're not really pulled into the maelstrom of the storm, if you will. There was something I was going to mention as well, Reagan, on the Saturn square, and that's you have right in the center the um God, what's it called? The palindromic tenet, which of
Yeah.
course is 10, 10. And in the 10 as well as the 10 Sephira. And you were mentioning about the 3 and the 7, so 37 times 73, which are the only two reverse primes that we know of. And 37 times 73 is the Hebrew gematria value of Genesis 1:1, which is 2701. And of course, gematria only really works with Hebrew because Hebrew is an alphanumeric system. So, like what Reagan stated, the numbers, the letters, pardon, are also substituted for numbers. There's other alphanumeric systems that have done this too in the past.
Yeah.
But
Tons like those.
yeah, I mean, yeah, those magic squares too. But another thing too is that the entire Satyr Repo Tenet Opera Rotas, it's all basically a mirror image of the other, right? Of the as above, so below. And it's the same idea as the hexagram. So basically, what you're seeing with that Satyr square is the fire, the air, or pardon me, the fire, the air, which are the masculine. That is the Satyr Repo. That's from the upper, the phallus of the upper. So they're the upward triangles, and of course, air is the upward triangle with the upper capstone. It's got a horizontal line going through it. I've posted it in the chat, and then the bottom, the opera rotas is the earth and, or pardon me, the earth and water. So no, sorry, water and earth. So basically, what you're seeing with the tenet is ultimately the hexagram. So it's the conjoining of them all. And it's getting back to what you were saying, or asking Vex Cortex, which is the whole point of meditation is to create that artificial stillness in the midst of the chaos. You're never going to find the true eye of the storm, obviously, within your sojourn of life. But you can find something that is almost, it gives you a sensibility, a sense of God, a sense of the stillness of God. There's also another thing to mention as well, pardon, is that Satyr Repo Tenet Opera Rotas, Martin Fleischmann, also mentioned that the Satyr Repo Tenet Opera Rotas could also, where it was found in, I think that's the one actually you're viewing there.
Yeah,
That's
this
from Pompeii.
one.
And it's from the Jewish quarters of Pompeii, interestingly.
Yeah.
So You see with the A is very similar to the Templar A font, which is almost like a unicursal hexagram, which is the same idea as the Thelemite sigil or the Freemasonry sigil, and the O's as well are all monads. They've got the dot in the center, but apart from that, it's probably to be read from right to left, because
Oh,
what we're
that's why
dealing with
the
are
S and the N are backwards.
exactly. So it should actually read rotas, opera, tenet, arepo, sator. Now, if you put, if of course, if you utilize that sequence, and then you then break it down, ultimately what you're getting is a sort of formula, for a toroidal vortex, or how the architecture of the world is established from a Saturnine perspective. So from an Abrahamic perspective, which is, Satur Repotenus Opera Rotas, the cedar from A, and again, this is broken Latin. It should actually be ad repo, but they've altered it so it obviously fits in with this this little I guess you would call it a meme or a
Well, they took out a
yeah,
D,
mimetic symbol.
right? So remove a D
Exactly.
like a dimension. It's kind of like a
Uh,
dumbing down.
yes, absolutely, and also it fits in with the from the A, from the alpha, from the beginning, rep repeatedly to the O. So the divine creator or the cedar, Saturn, Sator, from A repeatedly to O, or from beginning repeatedly to end ad infinitum, manipulates or establishes the world or the wheel via a toroidal vortex, or utilizes toroidal vortexes with skill.
Yeah, I
So,
think that's even
um,
on this, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
Yep, there it is. Rep per rep per. This is like done
yeah,
more in the Egyptian version, but it's
rep and power, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's basically what you're seeing there is this notion that you find within the Kabbalah and the Zohar, which is their idea of, I guess, their Saturnian archetype of God, is that he established the world. He took the potential of the upper, and he divided it out. He the spirit of him was hovering above the waters, and he established light and dark. Um, and then interestingly as well, he established the sun, right? That comes after. So what it's telling you is what we're sort of discussing with the light and the dark isn't necessarily just light and dark. It's the polarities. It's the literal dualistic syzygies that we were talking about, the coupling of energy. So you're taking that singularity and you're putting it into a state of disparity, which is the light and the dark. So the Abrahamic God is ultimately the demiurge. It's the craftsman. It's not necessarily the prime cause. It is the prima materia. It's that spirit which was in the void, which established the yin and the yang from from that potentiality, from the prima cause, the prime cause, the God, the true God, which the unknown God, the ineffable one, who was all of that potentiality in one. Um, yeah, I mean, of course, there's other ways to view this as well. That the abyss mixed with the upper as well. But however you spin it, there's basically
All
there's
pun
two
intended.
understandings of God. Yeah, there's yeah, there's no pun in there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is even stated in the Old Testament that there's two deities. Actually, there's more than two deities, but there's polytheism as well. You see that in Psalm 82, I believe, verse 1. That this idea of the God resides amongst the council of other gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in Deuteronomy verses chapter 32, verses 8 to 9, where it makes the distinction between El Elyon, or the Most High, and the Lord, or Yahweh, that Yahweh got his inheritance from El Elyon, which is, it basically shows you that Abrahamism is just another rendition of the Canaanite religion. And the Canaanite religion had this idea that El Elyon, the Most High God, the Most High El, linked, of course, with Saturn, or usually linked with Saturn at least. He had 88 sons and daughters who became the major gods. Of course, that links with the various constellations and well, pardon me, stars, the stars that could be seen in traditional astronomy. And of course, one of those 88 sons of El was, of course, Yahweh, the Lord. And what was the Lord's inheritance? Jacob, the seed of Jacob, which of course is Israel. So,
Which is the
yeah,
earth.
well, which is the earth, yeah. Which or one interpretation, yeah, but it is the earth, yeah. He who wrestles with El, or there's another translation of that within Kabbalah, but it's not from the Zohar, it's from another commentary, and I forget what it is now. But yeah, one of the major ones is Sagael, which literally is he who wrestles with God. Of course, Jacob wrestled with the angel. Forget the angel's name now. But yeah.
Azazel
By the way,
or Gabriel.
Gabriel, yeah. Gabriel as well. I think it's so you have the 7 archangels, if I recall correctly. Michael is the one in the center, is he not?
Yeah,
Yes.
Michael's the
So Mike,
main angel for God, the top
yes. So
archangel.
Michael is the 7th angel. Michael is basically Saturn. This is linking with the planetary genii. Of course, the traditional in classical astronomy, there's only 7 planets, including the sun, because those are those are the ones you could see with the naked eye. So the sun and the moon are included in that, all the way back to Saturn, which is it was the terminus point. It was the end boundary of the known celestial cosmos. Another thing, by the way, is according to uh, um, evangelical preparations, I believe. I think it's by a classical writer from the 2nd century AD, and he was he was writing, or he was quoting from a Phoenician priest. God, I forget the name now. It's in the book, a book that I'm writing, but he basically quoted from this now lost work of this Phoenician priest, and the Phoenician priest actually stated that another name for Saturn within the Phoenician language was Israel.
Mm.
And the reason for that is because if we understand Sagael is he who wrestles with God, if you go back to the yin yang thing, man, or even the black sun, if we understand Saturn as the spirit of the abyss, the spirit who was hovering over the waters, who divided, the light and the dark, and established, the world Mundus, the middle realm, Midgard. Then of course, where he is positioned, juxtaposed to the upper, right, the sort of primordial tree, the prime cause, if you will. If he is the prima causa, the prima materia, pardon, and the spirit of the abyss, then of course he's going to be wrestling with the Most High God, as we see from that distinction from Deuteronomy 32, verses 8 to 9. So that's that's probably where the Phoenicians got it from, right?
Hmm.
Wow.
Saturn is this spirit which is it's in opposition to God. It's in opposition to the prime cause, because it is the demiurge, the craftsman, he who is the prima materia, literally the ego, the personality, even the eyes, right? That same idea as the eyes, the dualism of the eyes. It doesn't actually exist. It's an illusion. Saturn is the weaver of the illusion, the creator of the black box, the black cube, the Maya, right? Of course, you have the links with the Bhavra chakra, the wheel of Samsara, and Yama. Yama is Yama literally means twin. You have two eyes. You have dualism. You have the sigil of Lucifer.
Yeah.
You know, all of this. It's what you're seeing is the Y principle. From the oneness emerged the two. Then from the two, basically the bifurcation was the world of duality born. This world of constant conflict, constant decay, essentially. So it's pretty much all there. Most of the religions we know of, bar a few, such as the Dharmic philosophies and the Dharmic religions, and there's a couple of others that existed in the pre-Abrahamic world. Of course, the Native American religions too. Bar the Mesoamerican ones, but the idea of the Great Spirit and such, they are all they're all sorts of they all worship Saturn essentially, or a Saturnine archetype. You know, there's like what I'm saying. There's very few that exist now, because Saturn is such that, because he's wrestling with the true God, the Great Spirit, or whatever we want to call it, the ineffable one, he wants to colonize and destroy all memory of that. But of course, this is the fool's journey, right? Saturn is the fool. So it always emerges that he seeks the destruction of God, but by seeking the destruction of God, by the act of that transgression, he actually acknowledges God. And
Right.
like ourselves, like what we're discussing right now, he actually instills in us that sort of memory of God, that or whatever you want to call it, the prime cause, or that which is beyond the material world, but exists within us as the spark of vitality. So ultimately, that's what all the mystery religions are getting at, or they at least make it plain that this distinction between these two archetypes, God and Saturn, essentially. Yeah, or
Oh
the
yeah.
abyss and the upper.
Yeah. As above, so below, or above against below, or below against above. Because really, this is just a mirrored reflection of what's above, like you're saying.
Right.
And they it's going to the extreme. And all that, like devil or Satan or anything like that, means is adversary. It just means opposite or
Yeah.
opposed, you know. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
There's also the idea as well that you see in Aeon, Carl Jung's Aeon, where he actually states, and again this links to Cancer and the zodiacal sign of Cancer, and Capricorn or Saturn, or the Moon and Saturn. This is the idea of the Saturn Moon matrix and all of that in the New Age. But he states that Quicksilver, which is another name for Mercury or Mercurius, again linking to this idea of the information, right? The world of information, the world of electricity. That Mercury is it derives from the heart of Saturn. He literally says that in Aeon. So you're seeing the interlinking between the two. Yeah, basically that's it. The silver. So that's what Mercury looks like. So Mercury is, you're not actually seeing Mercury. Mercury just takes on the form of what surrounds it, of
Mm.
its environment, like water. And again, like the waves, right? The waves are, it's simply that reflection, but it's a broken reflection. It's a hall of shattered mirrors, right? It's the fractality of existence. So, I mean, you know, you could say we're looking too far into this, but the people who control you know all of this on a very fundamental level, because all of this is required to know man in the deepest, to know man better than he knows himself, essentially. And to even form a basis of psychology. So you have to know all of the, you have to know, to form a basis of, for example, psychological warfare and propaganda, you have to know where the consciousness derives from. Well, obviously it derives from the subconscious, and then that derives from the unconscious. What is the unconscious? Well, basically what we're discussing is where the unconscious comes from. It's how conscious perception is made manifest. So all the systems of power know this, because all of their religions essentially echo it, with some slight distinctions and alterations between the names and some of the parables and the way that they go. But the exposition of the symbolism is always exactly the same, never changes. Especially if the savior archetype never changes. You'll always have that death and resurrection motif. And because it's straight from the, well, of course, that's the initiatory rites and the mystery religions too. So, yeah.
Mm.
I think a lot of them can be summed up by this image here. So this has just about every religion on it, at least all your major ones. Right? You got even Masons, right? All your Mason symbols, they all came from the Quran or Testament, right? Any talk of Testament is
Yeah.
talking about Christ. Even these symbols are used in Catholicism, Islam, Judaism, in different ways, but they have the same root meanings, you know. And then you can see,
Yeah.
I'll zoom in a little, but here's all the
This is a
different,
good one.
all your different signs for the zodiac, which here's the 12 houses of Christianity for your 12 tribes of Israel, 12 sons of Jacob. And then these just repeat, but they're your organs, right? They're called organs for a reason. Everything has to do with harmonics and sound, vibration. And it repeats, so it's got the 4 repeating elements going through. And obviously these can be matched up to any one of these, right? And they are. I mean, each one of these symbols has a element that it's tied to, along with each of the zodiacs.
Oh, yeah.
And then, yeah, here's your 12 apostles, right? And then 12 times 12 is your 144, right? You have the 144,000. That always comes up very often, which is the arc length of one of the circles in a vesica Pisces, right? And so I think I have a simple one for that right here. Yeah, one that I drew up a long time ago. Let's see, this is 144. Oh, half of a circle of the vesica Pisces, which a full
In that diagram,
is 288. Go ahead.
no, in that diagram there, I can see, even though it's a bit off the path, I can see the Fantastic Four logo in that 4. It's very particular
Yep.
as far
Yeah.
as that whole, like it's off centered, if you will. The angle of the top to the downward left is off centered on purpose, exactly like the Fantastic Four logo. It's very noticeable now with that diagram
Mm-hmm.
going into that whole, hidden in plain sight Marvel kind of a thing.
Oh yeah. No, they love to do
Yeah,
that
good
stuff.
point.
That's why I
But
was
you'll
bringing up
notice
the
as well,
Silver Surfer.
Yeah, exactly.
all
So,
of the
I mean, basically, all of all of this to the masses is just literally a never-ending illusional box in which to keep people's energies.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Obviously, to break free of that is to have nothing to control and no price tag to put on it. I mean, even getting down to like kids cartoons and stuff like that, which obviously like aren't for kids. I mean, this just seems to be a like they're in it to win it on the long game as far as this is concerned, to throw up the because even like within like Christian religions, right? Like you guys have heard that like the cross, that's like an unfolded cube. You know what
Yep.
I mean? This
Oh
is all a
yeah.
construct, for which the mind to exist in. Because then, if we're forever only looking outward, then we dare not ever look inward. That's
Yeah.
I'm more interested
Um, y-
in what kind of, it's the teams of people that some of these let's call them gatekeepers have that interest me the most, as in like I envision like my whole life, like they'll have teams of scientists and stuff, but then they'll have people who are like, I think that we're at a point to where, I mean, I know that I'm pulling out of the astral realm all the time, every time I do for the past 20 years. So I know that these guys, that they're pulling new things, or obviously there's nothing new under the sun, but they're pulling new to them information from a different realm into this one, right? That it, like you're saying, like they know the secrets, they know us better than we know ourselves. So do you guys feel that this started with the spiritual practice of going inward? They discovered these things, then came out of that and were like, hey, we can put a price tag on this, and obviously control as well, which is a currency in itself. um,
well, I have
because
a
now,
theory about I have a
yeah,
theory
go ahead.
regarding that, but I'll let Reagan answer it first if he has an opinion upon it.
Yeah, as far as if this was like all planned out essentially versus just happenstance, or like I was kind of trying to get the exact question you were asking though. Did you simplify?
um, well, yeah, I mean, I could expound on that forever, but I think that it's going to just come right back around to what it is that
Oh, okay. Okay, I gotcha.
in order to, in order for this game to continue for them, keeping this knowledge is of the most paramount and vital importance, probably above everything else. I mean, even just simple stuff like shared mythology, just some light gematria, just basic stuff. Let's say for us to put a word on it, that like, it's just like I've discussed with Michelle on Culty before, like on like other subjects. It seems like the rise of technology, aka our access to this information and being able to extrapolate it out and talk about it, in this case in verbal form, along with your guys' awesome visuals, that it's like, in order to, it's like you have to use the contradiction against itself in order to prove it. Like, I know it's like wheels within wheels thinking, but it's, how do you guys figure higher dimensions into this? As in, I like personally am, and have been for 20 years, into the astral realm, whatever you want to, whatever you want to
Label it.
call that learning space, that whatever, like you build homes there. And what you guys are saying true, it is true within that realm, is that there's still just this hilarity of a duality where it's not a pure ascension space, at least in the past 20 years for me. It's still a place of duality. And I just wanted to know, even though I'm being long-winded about it, how through all this science, how you guys feel or experience yourselves personally, your other life, as in your sleeping life, or if you want to put it another way, your awake life, or asleep now, whatever, all that BS. is how their knowledge of higher dimensional information gets translated down into control on the earth, and if you guys even put any credence to beyond this life that we're awake in right now talking.
Well, the way I view it is, I think, right, if we're viewing it on a purely material level, just for a second, the way this probably started, we can call it a conspiracy. I mean, there's, what is a conspiracy? But two or more people, conspiring against the majority's interests. So this minority of, I guess you could call them ancient philosophers or ancient sages, or well, they call themselves sages as well, with the Zohar, but stargazers probably too, right? That in a sort of a inductive manner, they observed the patterns of nature, and then from that they probably built some sort of notion of what we're discussing now, which is, it's a fairly rudimentary, materialistic view of the cycles of nature, of the cosmogonical worldview, how everything came to be, right? The fabric of existence from a material, perceptual point of view on the earth. Like what you're saying, though, when we go into the likes of the astral realms, or that which is beyond, you could say, the three-dimensional, right? We go into areas where, again, we can't fully comprehend as three-dimensional beings, just as two-dimensional beings couldn't comprehend the third dimension. And of course, the shadows within our third dimension are two-dimensional. Likewise, the shadows in a two-dimensional world theoretically would be one-dimensional, and in a fourth-dimensional world, the only way we can understand the fourth dimension is via its shadow, which is shadow is in three dimensions. So this is where you get the likes of the hyper tesseract, I think it's called, if I recall correctly. So when you're thinking about, so for example, the Saturnian archetype, we already know from the Nahuatl, or the also goes by the Aztec faith. The Mayans had a similar history with this deity. The deity is called Tezcatlipoca, or literally the Lord of the Smoking Mirror, or literally the Lord of the Black Mirror. He also went by the name, interestingly, of Yaotl, which of course you have that Ya of the Yod, right? The Ya as well is also the number 15, as it's pronounced within Hebrew. The 15th tarot card just so happens to be the devil. So you're, and with Yotl, within the Nahuatl or the Aztec language, it means the enemy. So we're getting to the idea again of Shaitan, Ha-Shaitan, the adversary, Saturn being the abyss, Israel or Sagael, he who wrestles with God. So these same ideas of the adversary, the oppositional or chaotic force, which took the potential and diverged it. However, the Saturnian archetype itself and all these various spirits or deities or entities within the astral realms, and of course any of the concentric spheres of existence, is that they are all mere shadows of the first light. Because remember, a shadow can only emerge from the light which casts it. So it's the same idea as the notion of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, or the yin and yang, right? The light is has within it the seed of the darkness, and the darkness has the seed within it, the seed of the light, and so on and so forth throughout all dualities. It's this notion that like the character within a book or the subject upon the canvas, the creation will always seek to want to leap from the canvas and steal the paintbrush from the creator or the pen from the creator. It wants to know of the tenet, which is the logos. How can we use the word to control the creator's world and to perhaps even imprison the creator within that world? It's the same thing, by the way, you see in Frank Herbert's Dune with not with not with the the actual main books, but with some of the Butlerian jihad stuff, which I think his son wrote, which is the notion that man created AI, but AI eventually is the shadow of man. And of course, man is a shadow of a shadow. And Pindar, the ancient Greek philosopher, stated that man is a shadow of a dream, right? And
Right.
of course, you have the Edgar Allan Poe thing as well. But it's this idea that the creation will always seek to subdue the creator. It's like the son will always seek to outdo the father, right? If the father is great. Um, so it's that same notion, like what you're seeing, these parasitical entities, these sort of ambivalent or actually purely malevolent forces and these other realms beyond the terrestrial, like in the astral realm, these Saturnian archetypes, the shadows and the adversaries, they're almost they're seeking from man a way to materially express um, materially express them. So you see that for the Internet of All Things and the algorithm. It's almost like they want to be the ghost in the machine. They want to be digitally recreated upon Earth, um, to become the gods of man, to blot out the idea of the creator, to perhaps, of course, through AI, and you hear this all the time from Yuval Noah Harari and the rest of them, of creating a virtual reality, right? So creating, um, literally becoming their own creator, creating their own worlds. Um, but you also have the notion of loosh, if you've heard of that. So there's this potential that we are mere sustenance, a crop, if you will, for higher, incomprehensible or just simply unknown
I think they've proven
entities.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean that, yeah, looshing is a concept that it's almost like there needs to be a more palatable term for the masses to start with on that, because it gets into this, knee-jerk reaction of course, self-protection of the ego. That's fine. That's the mechanism. But just that, it almost puts it into a silly, almost comic book kind of form. Oh, looshing, come on. And it's like, no, everybody's heard and experienced the term, you could cut the tension in the room with a knife.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There's the invisible thing there, whether it's for good or bad, that can be sucked off of. And so so ego is what is basically the catalyst for any of this to be able to work within at least American society. I've only ever been all over America, not the world, but I'm going to just guess that things are relatively the same in a lot of ways all over the world. In
Yes.
this case, obviously up and down the levels of ego, um, that whatever you want to call being able to manipulate that within people, is that the ego is the spark in which almost lights the cube. It almost lights the box in which people can find themselves confined in. If that is, I don't know if it's truly ever dissolvable. I've damn sure tried, but is when that wanes, you know, like half a life ago, it was, for me, it wasn't the way that it is now, obviously, but just that there was a lot more ego there. There was a lot more, let me see what I can bring into this box. There was not maybe much of a concept outside of a box, but that's the main way of controlling that, or basically allowing people to control themselves, is like, it kind of reminds me, even though it's a bit off subject, about like New York City. Like, have you guys heard that, like, or like, it's not a matter of hearing anything, it's just a matter of thinking about it, that in particular, because of their population density and stuff like that, that New York is, among other things, like an energy experiment. It's like an energy farm,
Well, it's the Big
for the
Apple, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
like
big
for,
apple,
Yeah, paranoid.
exactly.
that it's a thing where, like, what is that, man? What is that great? You guys remember the Sicilian from Princess Bride, the little guy with the high pitched voice, inconceivable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I
We
haven't
just
watched them.
watched that in the other
Yeah, you guys
Discord
watched
What is
it
thing.
this
the other
guy's
day.
name? Yeah, there's a great
Oh, Vizzini. Yes, yeah.
there's the guy, what's it called? Okay, I remember. Dinner with Andre.
Yeah, Dinner with
Um,
Andre. That was a good one.
yeah, Culty, if you've never seen Dinner with Andre, it's this innocuous looking short film featuring that actor and another guy. I think it might even be Peter Weller. Um,
My Dinner
but
with
either way you
Andre.
cut it, it's this kind of innocuous looking little bit of film, where it's, just two buddies talking, but they start to go into the concepts,
Oh, we got to
that
put it
both
on
the
the
fellas,
list.
yeah, are talking about. It's a snore fest to the uninitiated. It's like, what the heck's going on here? But these two guys, over a bottle of wine and a nice meal, it basically jumps the fourth wall. Whatever you want to call it, Truman shows itself, where it's a work of, quote, fiction, but within it is these two guys, bouncing off of each other, just like what's going off here, and it starts to get to some pretty interesting places.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think that, like, I like what's being talked about here, because I've been basing my stuff so much personally within my experiences within the
Mhm.
astral realm. After learning this kind of stuff half a life ago, I started to delve so far inward that now I'm reaching plateaus that have to be gone through, and discussions like this really help that happen. I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm glad you could make it. I'm really psyched that you're here.
yeah. No, and
That's why I had to hold off from the videos and stuff I was doing, because, like, the fellows don't know this. I was like knee deep in making all these videos and stuff like that for YouTube, trying to extrapolate this kind of stuff, and I had to take a step back because I wasn't able to find a foundation that I was building from. In this case, with certain people and certain, coming out of certain groups and belief systems that are just bathed in this kind of control mechanism. So
Yeah, I get like
it
that as
was,
well, where you hit plateaus and um it's funny because see when you're least thinking about it, see when you or even least expecting it, things will just come out of nowhere, just
well,
innocuous
just,
things, and they spur on that sort of epiphany.
yeah, it's that whole, if you focus on it too much, it loses its beam. That there's a peripheral power to, it's not cursory for real, but it appears cursory in hindsight. Like, oh, I barely even, even like this, even joining you guys on this. Like, I had the phone unplugged, it was turned off or whatever. I was busy doing this and that. And then I turned it on and it was like, oh, it's live right now. And
Yeah.
we all know that there are no coincidences with that there's this, little nudging that happens. And
Yeah, that's
all
right. That's why we got hooked up, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, I
yeah.
don't know about you guys, but I believe that if I tie my shoe 5 minutes earlier, 20 years ago, we're not talking. That, you know what I
Butterfly
mean?
effect.
Like, yeah, that, like, let's say that my grandfather didn't see my grandmother and he bent down to tie his shoe and she walked right past. Would he have gotten married to someone? Yes. Would he have have children? More than likely, 50-50. Would that person have been me? No.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that gets caught up in some different concepts. But I think that this is awesome because even though this is happening more than a few times on the earth right now, there's not too many people doing what we're doing right now, or that have the information that the fellows do. And even more importantly, is how to express that information. Like, what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that's
Agreed.
obviously the biggest thing is bringing it into the 3D, and then in this case onto a screen into the 2D. I think that's probably the most important.
Well, that's why I wanted to do this, and fortunately, Culty mostly set it up, and we talked about it. And I always wanted to get into making videos. I just hardly can find the time amongst everything else. And it takes a lot of work, I'm sure, as you know. Like I've talked with Silas for years about starting to make stuff, and he puts a lot of time and effort into his videos. And
Yeah.
and I
Better
let
late than never.
and I like the videos. It's like I watch a lot of all your stuff, all these different people, and but it is one-sided, right? All you have is the comment section, and then if people are going to join your Discord and start coming in and talking or reach out to you, you'll get a handful. But like you're saying, there's very few and far between groups that are really discussing this stuff, and then even of the ones that are, there's only so many who are expressing it in a way that's digestible for most people. Um, and all these other things, right? So it gets very convoluted. I think a few of the people here, we've all been parts of many other groups who have all, they were good for a time or they were good for different information and things, but ultimately, like, they're kind of in their own little loop or echo chamber or whatever you want to call it. And I mean, even myself, like over the last 6, 7 months, I've come to kind of a standstill with a lot of this stuff. And like
Exactly.
these PowerPoints I have, like they're older. These are all from the last couple years. You know, last
Right.
slide was probably 6 or 7 months ago. I mean, look, this. Well, I've been editing things, so it's gonna change now. But I also like 5 years ago, I was probably reading 5, 6, 7 books a week. I was watching some 600 YouTube channels, a couple thousand BitChute, Rumble, and whatever else. Just going through 600, 700 websites a week, and there was like it was all new information to me, or it was different avenues, different perspectives on similar things that we were talking about. And sometime over back in September, it all just kind of stopped. I mean, it dwindled off
Yeah.
up to that time, but I stopped looking at YouTube completely. I stopped looking at these other video services, other than a handful of things that are posted up in the rooms. I had no desire to go look for anything. Um, and I doing normal things in my normal life, just cleaning the house or work or whatever, and just kind of going about. But I'm always keenly aware, so I'm aware, like, man, I was going out to the library, I was going and doing this, I was in videos, and now all of a sudden, just nothing. And I had no desire.
Hmm.
There was no spark. And
Exactly.
for me, it was just that time. I mean, at that point last summer, I was probably going about 4 years straight of just biblical studies. We did Bible studies basically for like a year. um, a bunch of other scriptures and books of note. But so now it was actually in like the last few months, I kind of started to rekindle that, and it's almost like that fire is getting relit, or there's some sort of motion that picked up again. And it kind of
Right.
really felt like over this winter, I was meant to just sit and let everything kind of digest, and think about all of this stuff more. And with limited interaction and limited external, feedback all the time. So, and I don't think those things are bad. And I think what you're kind of, you asked a question earlier, Silas answered on his view, which I don't see it too much different. It's kind of like it's a mutual existence to me as far as like my dream life and my real life and all these other things. To me, it's all interconnected. We only perceive time and space in this side of things as like a material body and in the material world and stuff. So to me, nothing ever really does, die in essence. Nothing really. You do just kind of move on to this next plane of existence. It could be a whole nother existence of some humanoid life form. It could be, I don't really know. I just assume that all of this stuff just continues on. It's all conscious thought being expressed, in the only form it knows how. And for whatever reason, this is how it works. Like we're trying to figure it out being inside of it. I never assume you're ever going to be able to figure that out. If you exist within the thing, if you're a gear in the machine, like you're never going to understand the entirety of the machine. You can only understand your part. And so that's at least what I seek out myself is just to understand my own part and how things work. And like when I do this, how I present everything, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm not trying to impose things on anyone, belief systems, or any of that matter. I'm just unleashing what potential I have in kineticism to the best of my ability to express it and get it out. And as you were
Right.
saying, like to shed that ego. I'm
Right.
unleavening
'Cause
my ego.
right. We're just the conduit through which this is moving. It's the
Yeah,
acting like we created anything. And I know that you're going to get this when I say it, that you're not teaching anything.
right.
That you know what I mean? You are not doing anything. You are merely the vehicle through which it
Conduit.
flows.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's what I wish were, like they would, obviously they're not going to because it's control, is that yes, the physical brain matter in our head does store certain things and do and perform certain functions. But for me personally, it's 99.999% an empty conduit for the infinite space around it through the infinite fields in which you can access.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, nobody taught anybody anything. They merely nudged or whatever you want to call that. There's just a slight bending of the envelope on the edge of the surface. The envelope was already there. You're just kind of pushing it a little bit further. I love it.
If that information were to get out too, like think about the entire science community and history community, anthropology community would all be dismantled that day.
It's over. Right, 100%. a
Hmm.
100%.
Right.
People aren't going to, and then everything else beneath that. Like,
Yep.
are people really going to keep supporting, rigged sports or any of the other 3D boxes that they have us in? No, they're going to completely eschew them and demand even more answers.
Yep.
It's, and that's what's so funny about the, like I don't follow any particular way, but I just like, taking a little bit from everything like most of us do. And I like the ancient Eastern religion, kind of a tenet of whether it's good or bad, you laugh. So there's the hilarity to me that the only way to tell people these ancient things, current things, and also that if we're not careful, that technology is going to, insert Skynet, infinite AI references here, that the only way to tell everybody about this is through technology in order to end it, in order to break systems of control that keep people boxed in. It's this, we're beyond, you guys can't ever tour the world in your lifetime on a sailing ship, and go to ancient, go to far off lands and teach this. It's, you don't have enough physical time in which to do so. you can spread the information quicker, but the information being spread quicker through technology is that, at least in my opinion, technology needs to take a back seat to human understanding before we can go any farther.
Well, this is the issue as well with the idea of the Aquarian age, and Jung talks about this in Ion, funnily enough, and he talks about it almost in a manner of, if you look at the way that Pisces is typically illustrated, the constellation, you have the vertical and the horizontal fish, and them, of course, they're conjoined by the knot, and by them pulling apart, one going vertically, one going horizontally. Of course, both of them are going at angles. I forget the importance of the angles now. There's a it's a specific number, both of them in terms of how they're skewed from the 90 degrees. Um, but with that force that's pulling them apart, it actually tightens the knot, and it tightens it ever tighter. So what he was stating there, almost similar to what Steiner mentioned with the idea of the various ages. So you had the incarnation of Lucifer, which is the rebel, broadly speaking, in 3000 BC, which was under the Yellow Emperor of Huang Di. And then, of course, 3000 years later, you had Christ, which was the middle point of temperance between the polarities of evil. And then 3,000 years later, he stated, or 3 millennia later, 2,000 years later, rather, he stated that the incarnation of Ahriman would come about, which is the tyrant, literally the techno tyrant. He would create a grand scientific deception, and seek to merge man with his essence, his being. And it's interesting because when you look at the Aquarian age, it's like what you're saying. You're seeing the complete and utter reversal of, well, of all norms, but you're seeing this supplanting of the artist with the almost the Greek techne, which is like the skilled artisan. He who just he's not an artist. He doesn't produce things which are, of a grand and transcendent nature, but he produces them quickly and efficiently, like a conveyor belt, if you will. So there's no real care in each single unit of production, no artistic care, but there's just simply the need to produce more and more and more until basically all potential natural resources are exploited and tapped, and of course the Earth can't give any more. And there was something that was mentioned by Steiner, and he stated in 1919 that Ahriman has the greatest possible interest in instructing men in mathematics, but not in instructing them, that mathematical mechanistic concepts of the universe are merely illusions. He is intensely interested in teaching us the concepts of chemistry, physics, biology, and so on, as they are presented today in all their remarkable effects, and in making us believe that they are absolute truths, not that they are only points of view like photographs taken from one side. If you photograph a tree from one side, it can be a correct photograph, yet it does not give an entire picture of the whole tree. If you photograph a tree from one side, it can be a true likeness, yet it does not give a picture of the whole tree, as can be gained from photographing it from four sides. Ahriman has the greatest interest in concealing from mankind that in modern intellectual rationalistic science, in superstitious empiricism, one is dealing with a great illusion, a deception, that men should not recognize this as of the greatest possible interest to Ahriman. It would be a triumphant experience for him if the scientific superstition, which infiltrates all areas of life today and which human beings even try to use as a template for the social sciences, should prevail into the third millennium, he would have the greatest success if he could then arrive in Western civilization in human form or digital form and find the scientific superstition as a prevailing dogma. So ultimately, what it's stating is through us attempting to break free from the world of matter vis-a-vis technology and technoistic concepts of measuring or attempting to measure that which is utterly immeasurable, God or what have you, that we actually create we unwittingly create the bars to our own prison. We lock ourselves within a sort of mental prison, a servitude to, as Steiner stated, empirical superstitions, you know? So this is all tied in with this sort of Saturnian or Ahrimanic, or I mean, there's other ways to describe it. This need for technology.
No, that's a good way to put it. I'm writing down Steiner. I got to read more of his stuff. You said early 1900s.
Which what
Yeah.
writing is that one in? Did you quote
Is it
from
Carl?
Silas?
I think it is the Spirit of Darkness, if I recall.
Okay,
But
that's the one I,
I'll
yeah,
find it.
okay. I just pulled
I'll
something
find
up.
it
I,
now.
is that,
Yeah, I'm sure there's a
So,
PDF out there.
sorry, no, it's actually the incarnation of Ahriman, the embodiment of evil on earth. 7 lectures, translated by Matthew Barton, pages 17 to 18, from the 2006 print.
2006, 7 lectures. Cool.
And sorry, it's
Thanks.
page 22. It's page 22.
Page 20.
Of course.
Got it. I'll find a PDF
Hey,
later today.
if you have that, Johnny, can you post it in the just the book? Can you post it? Oh, are you doing that, Reagan?
I was
Are you
just
looking
seeing
for
if
it?
I could find it. Let's see,
Yeah, there's got to be a PDF somewhere.
we might have it in the Athenium and the Hub. Got a bazillion books in here.
If you're familiar with the idea, the thought experiment of Rocco's basilisk, this is pretty much Rocco's basilisk, like what you're seeing. It's essentially anyone who opposes the incarnation of Ahriman through digitalism or through the algorithm, the sort of universal worldly algorithm that they desire. And again, this actually goes even beyond technology. Technology is just merely the platform for this.
Like that's where basically like the like that guy's basilisk is it talks about like inclusion. What was it? To where if you're not basically you either get on the team or you're out. Like if you're
Yeah.
not if you're not down for in this case like an evil AI that what is it? It's like a causality of that you're out of the team even if you knew about it or not, but you didn't like do anything for it. I have a hard time. Um,
No, absolutely. No, you're spot on. It's like from the movie They Live. You remember the guy in the tuxedo, and he's like, "Well, you know, you're best off batting for the team that's going to win, right? You've got to live the
right,
high life, the good life." Not
right,
understanding that, of course, by his treason, he, well, once they win and conquer Earth, he is obsolete to them. He's not even a pet. He's obsolete.
Yeah.
He's a useful idiot at that point. It's past his usefulness. So, he would also be, uh, um, you know, what's the word? Dispatched, if you will. So,
yeah,
basically, what you're seeing is it's well, what is technology? What is the computer processor? Essentially, what it is we have taken um, we've taken rocks, we've broken them down, we've enchanted them via the energy of the gods, lightning, and we've forced them to think on our behalf.
right.
Ultimately, And
Right.
the sigils that we've used, well, the circuitry that we've used look uncannily like the sigils, the demonic sigils of, various grimoires. Pick any really. The one that comes to mind would be like the Keys of Solomon, right? So basically, what you're seeing with the demonic sigils is perhaps these demonic sigils and all of the various sigils, like from D and the rest, is they're a way of taking that energy and sort of modulating or altering its frequency, altering its pathway of manifestation. And that's a similar thing that's perhaps, well, almost undoubtedly occurring with computer processors. But what one has to ask themselves is this merely a vehicle for something altogether that is beyond our comprehension? When you get into the realm of